Hello, man. Hello, Mgtows. Well, today it's International Mgtow Day, and we have no guests, and they're probably all out with their girlfriends. That's funny. Uh, so, in light of that, I don't know how long we can keep the show going today. Uh, I invited about 20 people, but some people have not showed up. So, what's in the news today? Well, there is International Mgtow Day, and I don't know how that affects each individual Mgtow. Uh, it's just something we kind of throw out there to make ourselves feel better about this awful, awful Valentine's Day thing going on, where men have to buy their females gifts, and there's a gifting thing going on, and it's almost spiritual in a way. Uh, it's more of that ritualized spiritual. Uh, what would you call it? Religious religion, civil religion that we have to get used to in society. And one of the parts is that is buying gifts for the female. Isn't it always buying gifts for the female? Uh, so, who do we have in the room here? We have Warhorse, Van Dyke, Eric, just a regular. Eric says, I'm a Dutchman. Are you really, Eric? Oh, so we're just waiting for guests to come in, and I don't know on this day whether anybody's actually going to come in. I had some. There seems to be something funny going on with my G plus. I invited some people; their names were no longer on the list. Uh, Hello, James. So, so what went down in Mgtow? There was not. It was a very lull. There was a lull in Mgtow this week, and kind of uh, International Mgtow Day wasn't projected like it was last week. I don't even think Mayor of Mgtow did a video on International Mgtow Day. I think something we gave up on probably somewhere during the year. Um, so our last podcast we had James in, and we talked about the 3D printers. I watched that video you sent me this morning about the 3D printer. That alloy really looked great. The I was worried a little bit because the machine was shaking so much, but the 3D printer seemed to keep up with it at the end, and the alloy itself looked great. It just looked really good on the after the print was out. So he was making the same thing you are making. He was making parts for the drone parts. So, greetings and good morning, gentlemen. It's another Sunday afternoon throwdown, and this one's a little weird because it's just me. Shining had things to do today. Messenger has his daughter today, and that's great when you can get your daughter as a as a single father, or you get your child because you get them so infrequently because of the ways things work out. You're supposed to get them when the court says, but that begins the problem there. When the court says, sometimes it's so ambiguous that and then the mother herself, she has a lot to do with it. I went to visit my children, several times in my life where there was nobody home on the Saturday pickup or the Friday pickup, and I'm sitting there. I drove 50, 60 miles to go see my children. No one was home, or she said, "We got something to do. We're doing something on your day," and you just don't get them, and it's sad. Well, for me, I would drive 40, 50, 60 miles, sometimes more than that, to go see them every weekend, and then that would happen. So it is a seldom joy when you do get your children, and when they're at a young age like that. It's uh, oops, I did it again. I accidentally forgot to turn off the like I always do every single week, I forget to turn off the chat. And so today we're having a problem getting any kind of guest in, but that's okay. That's okay. I'll just do what I do, and usually that's just chat about garbage. And I did invite about 20 people in, and in the news this week, let's so you guys want to cover the news this week? The U.S. Supreme Court Justice Antonio Scalia found dead in West Texas ranch. So Scalia's dead. Wow. I don't know how old he was. That's kind of a little bit disheartening. He was a very liberal. I think he was the first liberal justice out there associated, or maybe he wasn't too liberal. He was found dead in an apartment of natural causes. The federal official said Scalia was 79 years old, so he was he was up there in his age, and that was in West Texas. I hope he wasn't near Johnny Manziel. Johnny Manziel would be, probably give him a heart attack. West Texas. The Cleveland Browns cut Johnny Manziel. So Anthony Scalia. Oh yeah, I remember him looking at his picture now, and he was found dead. And the Republicans, they're going to have a new debate. So they want to have a new debate. Because they're asking each other who lost the old debate or the debate before that. So they're going to schedule a new debate, and that's kind of common for around this year. Marco Rubio is going to be in, and Donald Trump, and Donald Trump's hair will be attending too. So they're arguing about who ranked. I see John Kasich is in there. John Kasich is the Ohio governor. Now, if you know anything about John Kasich, this guy would be horrible, just horrible for the president of the United States. If you know any of this stuff, I've talked about it before, about some of the stuff he pulled with the liquor funds in Ohio. What he does is the liquor funds are taxes, and the taxes should go back into the tax base and build bridges and buildings and all these things, great things men do. But he started a 501k. And in that 501k, he put his name as the executive on the 501k. So all the money from the liquor funds were transferring to his 501k. Then he was spending it on what he called a jobs program, and he was trying to bring tech to Ohio. Now, I don't know if you know what the temperature is in the atmosphere around it, but Ohio for building tech is not a very good. It's not a very good place to build tech, because we've discussed this in the past about you have to do air conditioning, and you have to do heating, and you have to have climate control and dust control and all that stuff. So he spent all this money trying to bring techs, and then now I don't even know what it is that he's trying to bring. Cleveland and we're pretty much a steel-based economy, and we've been a steel-based economy for 100, 120, 130, even more, 140 years. I worked in the steel industry in Cleveland, so I know it's steel. Everything's steel-based, and you're making products, steel products. So John Kasich is trying to go against the grain. There was a car crash. Now Eric could fill us in on this car crash. Viola Beach killed in car crash. Who's Viola Beach? Maybe they're just the band Viola Beach, and their manager died in a car crash in Sweden. Now, is that a big Swedish group? Maybe Eric or one of our Swedish guests could tell us who Viola Beach is. Eric Van Dyke. Is Eric still in the room, or did he leave? So that's a lot in the news. I did watch a few, probably a half a dozen movies out on what Amazon. And I can hardly remember the movie. I did watch The Witch Hunter with who is that guy? I can't even remember his name. The witch hunter, and they go out to hunt witches, and he becomes immortal for like 800 years or 600 years or something. Oh, he says, I'm not Dutch, I'm Swedish. Yeah. Who is that Viola Beach band? I have no idea. They were all killed. And yeah, Vin Diesel was in the witch hunter. And he's also, he's got a great presence, a great screen presence. So it makes it out. There was a woman involved, and the whole movie was kind of pushing towards for 600, 800 years or whatever that was. He was this loner, this sort of witch killing loner, and then at the end he found companionship. Oh, isn't that sweet? Just in time for my international Mgtow Day. Damn it, that is just one man's Spanish Inquisition. Thanks a lot, Dr. McCoy. Paul Wilson. Hello, Paul. I speak double Dutch. He says, Veritech Ace. Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition. I don't know what that's all about. I don't even know what you guys are talking about there. So it looks like we may have a very short Sunday throwdown because of a lack of guests this week. I should invite Paul in to see what Paul has to say. Okay, and we're just covering some topics in the news this week. Viola Beach Bands was killed. I don't know who he is still. Never heard their music. So Scalia is the big news. Anthony Scalia died, and I don't know if he was. I don't know if he would be exactly. I don't think he. What does this matter to a Mgtow? Because no matter how we look at both parties, neither one of the parties, at least in America, are pushing any men's rights issues. So it's a sort of it's a choice between a turd and a turd sandwich. And that was always my thing on voting. You have a choice between a turd and a turd sandwich, and you have to pick one of them. I believe in a no vote. You can have yes on the other candidate, yes, or it's an or. You can have yes or yes or yes or. Then you could have no, none of these candidates are good enough. Let's redo this until we actually get a candidate in here that is good enough. So that's kind of my the way I look at politics, but we don't have that. Some countries do have that. I noticed in the forming countries with Iraq and Iran, when they first started those democracies, you can call them a democracy, that they were forming, and then there were candidates, and they said, no, this candidate wasn't good enough. And they started again, no, this candidate. They did that like 13 times. I can't remember how many times they did that. And before they picked the one candidate they had, that I think they killed him right away. Oh, yeah. Oh, and James will find this interesting. James Denton, the gravitational waves, the new gravitational waves that were detected, that proves Einstein's theory. Now, one of the things for Einstein's theory about gravitational waves was one of the sticking points on his theory. But a team of scientists announced on Thursday that they were looking at two black holes that were colliding, and these black holes are billions of light years away. They're really far away. Oops! Now I have to turn that off. These commercials, and I'm getting spammed by commercials, and there was they resonate faint tones is what happens, and now with the new new equipment that they had an update, so they turned this thing on and they looked at the black hole, and they can start to see what exactly happened. And then there was some great now with the new theory, just earlier this year with the theory of magnetics, and they can apply that to now what we call a bottomless gravitational pit, which is a black hole. There's you can see that resonating out from these two colliding black holes, and it's really cool when black holes collide, because they kind of suck towards each other, then they start spinning, and when they spin, they eventually spin out. Now we don't know if there's going to be some matter or a mass at the end of that. There was a lot of mass stuck, and that could be the formation of a new sun, a new planet, or whatever. We don't know yet. That's millions of years down, but we can see what's happening. But Einstein postulated universal. It would become manifest universally that his ideas of gravitational waves powered 50 times the output of the star, and universally combines the vibrant, a pair of L-shaped. He said it was like sort of L-shaped, but yeah, that's all. It's scientific stuff. I really don't read up on that a lot, but that's some of the tech news this week about new gravitational waves, and Netanyahu is in the news this week too, with Vice President Joe Biden, which I really thought was going to run for the presidency, but no, he ducked out on that. I guess with Hillary Clinton in there, Joe Biden doesn't, but Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu met with him this week, and Joe Biden arrived, and so I don't know what they're talking about. Probably which bottle of moat or which bottle of wine would be better to charge the taxpayers while they're talking and having conversations. And that's usually how it is. So what else is in the news? England defends Richard Dawkins. The Church of England. Oh, that's interesting. What Richard Dawkins tweeted out last week, was it? Yeah, that was the big issue last week. Richard Dawkins tweeted out something. It was an MRA video. Somebody put up an MRA video, and Richard Dawkins retweeted it. So he got in trouble. He got disavowed from that organization that he was dealing with. Now, the Church of England this week. Let's read this. Let's see what this is all about, actually. The Church of England has defended a tweet it sent praying for the secularists. Oh, they're doing the we're praying for you thing. So the Church of England, it retweeted it. After that, it retweeted about 1,000 times after that. And there was some question about whether it was mocking the British atheist position, whether the church was mocking the British atheist position. But the church came to Richard Dawkins's defense, and after the God delusion, that's what the original tweet was about. It was the feminist delusion. What the feminists there were not the feminists. What I can't remember what the video was actually on, the feminist delusion, and then they retweeted that, and then it was with that red-headed girl, Big Red, they call her. I think her name's Chancey Binks, and is that how you pronounce that, Binks? So Richard Dawkins retweeted that, and I don't know if Richard Dawkins would actually know that the character, the personality that was in the actual video was Chancey Binks. And I wonder if sometimes I wonder if he was up on the actual news that got her that caricature in the MRA. So it would be interesting whether Richard Dawkins was keeping up with the MRA news. That's the interesting part of this thing, whether Richard Dawkins, and you can start doing the secondary thoughts on that. And if Richard Dawkins was keeping up with with the MRA news. He's sort of silently in his bedroom, just watching all of our MRA and Mgtow stuff. And that itself is quite a hilarious thought. Uh, oh, hello, Howard. Howard's in the room. I invited Howard in today too, but he's still kind of shy on coming in on these things and talking with these things. And I'm still waiting on guests. If anybody was going to show up, I think we're at a low. It's International Mgtow Day, and the low seems to be everybody's out. Imagine that. Imagine that. All Mgtows are out doing something. That's kind of cool. Other than serving and protecting the gynocentric out there. So we don't have much sports news. There's sort of a lull in sports to this. At the NFL mock draft is probably the biggest thing you want to keep up with, and I keep up with the mock draft simply because Cleveland has the second pick again this year. But Cleveland has had the second pick, the third pick, or the fourth pick every year for the last 13 years. We seem to have screwed that up, or not we as a city, we as an organization of Browns members have screwed that up for the last 13 years, and we're still getting. When you get the top pick, that means your team was the worst, and we've been consistently the worst. Hey, we're really good at something in Cleveland. That's being consistently the worst. And you can see with the history of Cleveland, the burning river, the Cuyahoga is always on fire from the crude. But that's not because of pollution. People often thought that was. Let me light a cigarette here. I was gonna do some cigars this week sometime and do a cigar review on because I have like 80 cigars here I bought. Why I bought 80 cigars, don't ask. But the Cuyahoga River in itself, you hear it in the news a lot that the Cuyahoga River started on fire. That's not actually because of pollution. That's because of there's leaching. I live on a shale bed here. I often say that the soil of Lorraine is you can't grow anything. That's because everything I live on a shale bed, and that shale bed leaches oil down into in the trees, the certain amount of trees, and there's an alcohol process that goes around on naturally in the universe or in nature that the shale bed leaches which is natural in any body of water, but it leaches into the river, and it gets hit by lightning and it starts on fire. You can see this. You can go back and look at this weird thing that happens. It's and you can go back all the way back to the 1700s and see that the people, when they showed up here, they said, oh, this river just starts on fire once in a while. And it's weird that it does that. And we know it's weird, but it wasn't actually all the pollution in the river, which people postulated that it was the pollution in the river was why it, but that's Cleveland. That's our luck, with sports and with we do have LeBron James, but that seems to be falling apart now too. But he is a great talent. He's from actually Akron, and he went to St. Mary's, St. Joe's down there in Akron, which is a fine school. My kids went to one of the Catholic schools. We do have a very good Catholic school set up here in Cleveland, and my kids went to they had that kind of education when I was in the house. But as soon as I was removed from the house, that was very expensive. That was $15,000 a year to send the kids to a Catholic education, and that was quite a bit. In other news, iPad Pro could use a much faster 29W charging unit. So how much faster can these units get? God, I see those things. I can't remember who it was, Samsung or iPad or someone did the commercial where they just dropped it on the pad and it charged up in 30 seconds. And I don't think that's really possible. But maybe someday that may be possible with they're doing. That's why I was talking about the magnetics and the gravitational pull before, because the magnetics is how they are going to actually charge these things now. And that becomes a much faster way of charging your phone than Katy Perry's in the news. Imagine that. Katy Perry's in the news, and Deadpool kills with a record-breaking 135 million. Now Deadpool has that new character, a new Marvel character. I really don't like the guy's attitude, and he says something in that movie, in the commercials or the trailer for that movie for Deadpool, that really, really irritated him. And I know you guys know what it is. It's going to be, it was when he goes, "Hey, that's my future baby mama." And that was supposed to be acceptable, an acceptable statement, like, "Hey, I'm going to be paying child support to my future baby mama." And what he's saying is, I know she's going to divorce me. So it was just a joke that they threw out there in the movie Deadpool and put on the trailer. But it's so telltale about our our society now, that when you look at a girl and you have a woman, a female, let's just call them females. When you look at the females, your first thought is, "Hey, that's my future debt. That's my future slavery. That's my future baby mama. That's the girl that in my future is going to leave me. And then she's going to go to Health and Human Services and collect child support on me. And then I'm going to become what I consider as a slave." And that's a sad indictment of our society. It almost makes me kind of, something about Stevie Wonder in the news this week. Sings with Lionel Richie. I thought Stevie Wonder was dead. But not really. So that's it with the news. And let me see. Bulgarian whales tracked during the hunting season. Are the Japanese still hunting whales? And I thought that would end. That's like beating. When they used to do the what do you call that? The seal hunt, and then they just beat the baby seals on the head. I consider it the tracking Bulgarian whales so they can slaughter them is pretty much about the same as a seal hunt, and that got quite a bit of coverage back in the 80s or 90s. A lot of jokes were made about that. I know Warhorse is going, "Oh," because he's an animal rights activist. And a lot of us MGTOWs may or may not be animal rights activists. As long as you're not in some bizarre group like PETA, I think it's okay to be an animal rights activist. And I personally think that hunting whales should be outlawed, even if it is a major food product in Japan. And I know Eric's probably going, "Hey, that's a major product in Holland." And those countries up there, I think they do a Joe, I think Howard wanted to join. Does he have a link? I sent a invite out to Howard this morning on his G+. Did he go there? And go to G+, or you should have an invite. And matter of fact, if he wants to join, I could just copy and paste and send it to him in his private section. If Howard wants to come in, he would have to say, "Joe, yes, I want to come in." But let me do that. I'll do that and show. He's not showing up on my list of let me see, Howard. Yeah, he's not showing up on my list right now, so I'd have to send him a private message, or he can accept the invite that I sent him this morning. It should show up in your little bell on the top, and I'm not sure how that shows up. I'm really not sure how that shows up. So I can copy and paste it and put it in his private message box. That's what I'll do if he wants to come in, but I'm really not sure that he would want to come in. Let me see how to do this. I have to find Howard Dare's. I have to find his. I am there, but it says off air. Oh yeah, that's just the invite. Maybe we're probably on 30 seconds. Oh no, I didn't send. Yes, I did. No, I didn't. Did I send you a? I can't see. I'm on my list of. You know what? I sent Stuart and Samara Techman invites this morning, and yours doesn't seem to be there. So go to your. I'll go to your page, your YouTube page, Howard, and then I'll go to your YouTube page in your comments and then the private messages in the comment area. So we do this so it doesn't get shared or overshared. We had a problem with that one day where it was overshared. I'm trying to find your YouTube page right now. Oh, there you are. So I'll send it to you in about, and then there's a send message, and then I'll link you right there, and there's the link, and send it to you right now. So you should get that in about 30 seconds, Howard. I'm sorry, I thought I sent him a message out and this morning, but that's okay. So I digressed back what were we talking about? There I go, doing the old man thing. What was I talking about? Got it. Okay, let me oops, excuse me. There I go, doing the old man thing. What was I talking about? Okay. Hey, Howard. Yeah.
How you doing?
Good. Do you have it playing in the background there? The video?
I think I do. I should put it on the microphone, I guess.
Yeah, because otherwise it's going to pick it up and it's going to. I can hear myself talking, and I hate hearing myself talking. Good. Do you have it playing in the background there?
All right, I'm going to mute this. Sorry.
Yeah, just do that. Yeah, because otherwise it's going to pick it up and it's going to. I can hear myself talking, and I hate. There it goes. Is that your usual avatar?
Okay, is that better?
Oh yeah, that's great. Yeah, is that your usual avatar there?
All right. How you doing?
Good. How are you doing, Tara? How is are you Howard's? I don't know if you're new to the MRA, or are you new to Mgtow or?
Yeah, pretty much.
I was discussing that. I thought that I have heard your voice before in the MRA circles, but I wasn't sure whether how long you were around this. And I've been watching and enjoying Howard's videos lately. And
no, I just started making videos about 3 weeks ago.
About 3 weeks ago, yeah. And how's that going? Is that sort of we get a lot of guys when they first start doing it, and they say it's there's something spiritual about making videos and getting how you feel out into the public. Yeah. So this will be your first.
Oh yeah, it's going great. I'm learning a lot more, and I'm able to really get my ideas focused as to what's going on regarding all this stuff.
Oh yeah. There's a lot to take in at first. I was thinking about that this morning about how we there's sort of this process where we don't know all the concepts yet, and then we come into Mgtow. I remember I was thinking back on my days back on the old Spearhead forum, and we don't know all the concepts, and we're still going over all the concepts in our head to sort of quantify in our persona or our individual Mgtow what that's going to be and how we feel about that. And there's a lot, isn't there? There's a lot to go over. There's a lot to do and learn about when you first come in here. Did you find that sort of a learning curve on that?
Oh yeah, there's a lot to take in and to internalize. Coming to grips with the idea that the world at large doesn't really care about me is it's not easy.
It's not easy. Yes, that red pill moment there. Someone was asking if you were on a delay here. Because it should mute from the pages. Okay, James is on a delay. He's getting it later. We're on a 30-second delay.
Yeah, absolutely. It's actually kind of strange because I'm getting your question and then I'm responding and then I get to hear myself talking back to myself.
Yeah, I think there is a delay going on here. I don't know how. Let me see if I can. I don't know if I could actually fix that. Now, are you listening from inside the podcast here with the earphones on?
But I'm enjoying, creating the videos, and the more I learn about this, the more anxious.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
There's a lot to learn about there's a lot to learn in Mgtow as you develop, and we all look at it as I don't know how we look at it. It was a very interesting question, how we look at it, developing your persona in Mgtow, your character, or and that's so personal to each person.
Absolutely. And, it's surprising me, the feedback I'm getting in the comments, everything like that. And I'm just becoming really hostile towards everything that feminism is.
Yes, feminism. Oh God, yeah. When you first get start getting the idea of feminism, we don't realize how deep that rabbit hole goes, do we? I think you did a video about how deep the rabbit hole goes, and then we start waking up about how deep the rabbit hole goes, and then we start looking out at our unique situations in life and applying. And sometimes it went over our head when we were younger, and sometimes we're just getting it now, and oh yeah, that was feminism that when that happened, and feminism influences this whole process in such a way, and the rabbit hole does go so really, really, really deep.
Yeah, they've been beating Western men over the head for 50 years now. And, even men are attacking men. Some of the comments I get on some of my videos are like, you have a lot of nerve saying this stuff.
Yeah. James Denton says, Howard, get on the real podcast. You are replying from the audio from the delayed version, not the live version. Do you have your headsets plugged in?
Yes, I have the headsets plugged in.
Okay, you have it plugged in. So we
How
have
do I get to the live one though.
Yeah, you're in the room.
No.
The microphone and the
no.
There's a microphone section with
Am I live now?
Yeah, yeah, you're live on, but there's a 30-second delay, or not even a 30, maybe a 15-second delay between what I'm saying and you're saying, and then we have to kind of figure that out and get in real time. So you seem to be listening to it from the uh, the actual YouTube page when you should be listening to it from here. And Male Feelings has joined us also.
Morning, everybody.
Good morning, Male Feelings.
Got a little bit of a cold, but I'm gonna do it.
Oh, you got a cold too? Yeah, a couple people said they had colds and flus.
Yeah, I got hit with it, man.
Oh God, I'm not going out. I'm not gonna involve myself in anything public. I'm just gonna order pizza and 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 stay away from pizza people this year because I don't want to get a cold. I just don't want to do that with anybody this year. Uh,
Not worth it. People aren't worth it.
yeah, people aren't worth getting a cold. Isn't it terrible when you become Mgtow that it's like, oh, I'd rather just not even involve myself with people than get a cold. Last year there was children around here, and you know what happens with children? They go to school and they bring back like 25 different diseases into your house, and it seemed like forever last year I was fighting a cold.
Yeah, yeah. Kids. I mean, school is basically just a biohazard zone, right?
Oh, it is a biohazard zone, yeah. God, and they ask why they need to give the kids the shot sometimes. There's always this constant argument with between the I don't even know who it is that argue against it. The kids need to get the immunization
Vaccines.
for a reason, the vaccines for a reason, because you're going into a public place where you got people from different cultures, different areas of the world, different everything. And if you were ever in the military,
Why am I not hearing this?
Howard, how you doing with that? Howard's getting Howard's
Technical
getting
difficulties.
yeah, he's getting the audio feed from the live broadcast, and it's presenting a 20-second delay on what we're talking.
Totally, yeah.
Yeah.
I
I
was
don't.
listening. It's kind of funny. It's like
I
being
don't.
on satellite or something.
Yeah, I don't. I don't know exactly how to undo that. I've never had that happen before. Uh,
Yeah,
I,
it's strange.
yeah. Now, if you click off and keep his screen on his desktop, or I don't know if he's using a desktop, whether
I mean, as long as he's signed into the Google Plus Hangout, it should be real time, right?
yeah, it should be picking it up. That's why it's so weird that he's getting yeah. I would click off of
YouTube.
the YouTube and just let it sit. The actual Hangout will sit on your desktop if you get a desktop, and then it'll keep up from there. And then maybe there's a setting. I don't know which setting
I
that would
think I
be.
may have it now.
Okay, okay, that sounds a lot better.
Yeah.
Oh,
Sorry about that.
okay, there you go. What was happening there? So in case that happens in the future, we
Yeah.
know.
I was listening to the audio on the chat from YouTube, and I hadn't turned on the microphone headphone set from within the Google Hangout.
Oh,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
you
I've
had
had that.
the red mic showing on your avatar there. Okay,
Yeah,
now
so,
I understand what was happening.
yeah, it was
Okay,
pretty confusing. I was like a 30-second delay.
that was interesting. Trying to talk, I was like, I was going
Yeah,
to pause, and I didn't know. I was trying to figure it out in my head whether I had to pause afterward or we'd start talking over each other.
yeah. Within like 5 seconds, I would start hearing myself talking. It was very confusing. Thanks for guiding me through that.
Okay, that's right. Yeah, yeah. So Howard's new making videos. We were talking about the cathartic effect of just putting yourself out in the public like that. Do you feel there's something cathartic about this, about the experience of
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. The idea of listening to videos and hearing about the stuff is one thing, but then when I actually started to say it aloud and make the thoughts concrete, it was like there was no escaping the reality of those thoughts, and it really came down on me more like, you know, like a wall of bricks, like red bricks just falling on me. And the making of the videos is allowing me to, you know, to get my thoughts really clear, really strong in place. And, you know, I'm becoming really motivated and hostile towards feminism, the social justice warriors, collectivism, and the brainwashing and conditioning that Western men have been put through for the last 50 years. So I'm excited to be doing this.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
When you realize that everything you've ever known has been a lie, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that I'm being manipulated, and that, you know, the people that I'm trying to be really fair with, they're not trying to be fair with me, you know? So I'm giving feminists and social justice warriors the benefit of the doubt. And, you know, I'm starting from a position where they're already accusing me of being a misogynist, a sexist, a racist, and I've never been any of those things. So it's an attack on, you know, a male, masculine behavior, and it's relentless.
Yeah, we feel we're being rational and we're being rationalists. We're internalizing what we hear, and then we're going, that's right, and I can do the that's right, or I think that's a little wrong thing, or I can develop my own unique stance on these things, and we feel we're being rationalists, and they're telling us we're just flat out wrong, and we know we're not wrong. And that's the frustrating part, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the attack. You know, the attack is an illegitimate, preemptive attack on the character, the morality of a man. You know, it's as if they're saying right from the start, we think, you know, you're a rapist, we think you're like Hitler, and, you know, therefore, once they start from that position, they don't have to treat the man, they don't have to respect a man's rights, they don't have to listen to him, and it's a preemptive attack on the morality of men. And it's acceptable. It's like,
it's acceptable. Yeah, they're just parroting what they hear, aren't they? The blue pill world, the social justice warriors, the feminists, whoever we're talking about, the others, they're just parroting what they were taught. And when you hear it from the new perspective of a red pill, it's very queer because you know that they're just parroting what they've heard.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, as a younger man, I went along with a lot of these ideas. You know, you should never hit a lady. You know, you should always hold the door open for a woman. You should never argue. You know, you should never be. Anyway, all those ideas, they were indoctrinated right into me. So when I encounter blue pill men in comment sections and things like that, you know, I don't get upset. Yeah. I don't take any of their insults personally. You know, I understand.
That's an interesting thing. When we were growing up, well, talking about the older guys here, we were told never to hit a lady, and it was always the thought behind that was we would never hit a lady because a lady would never hit a man.
Yeah. Women have been taught not to respect men or not even treat them with any respect.
Right. Well, that's I mean, the message is lost, but that's what's implicit in chivalry. You know, chivalry is like the thing that we think of, but it's based on certain implicit things, which is, you know, respect, and, like, in other words, if the male is going to protect the female, the male's going to sacrifice himself, well, she's got to be doing something to earn that, right? But obviously that's what they've erased. And
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is no accountability. We often use the words accountability, responsibility, and you know, these presuppositions that a lady would act like a lady. But nowadays, ladies don't. You listen to my latest video, and I use parts of this woman just going off. And we see this so much. You can go to a restaurant right now, and if you take a tape recorder and sit there long enough, you're going to get some woman going off at the, and they don't act like ladies. There's no decorum. There's no etiquette with females anymore, and they're just, the presupposition is you're just going to treat me like a queen. And,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the entitlement and the lack of respect and regard that the women demonstrate towards men, it's shocking, to be treated like that. The emotional, backlash about that. And I'm just get really highly motivated to speak out against this, to kind of like help men prepare themselves for when they get called a misogynist, when they get called a sexist, to be able to, not have to pause, not have to think about it, and just say, no, I know what you're doing. I know the tactic you're trying to use on me, and it's not going to work.
It's not going to work anymore. Yeah, yeah, and it's just something common to this era. Is well, I don't know. It was when I was younger, things sort of worked very well, and females had a decorum. They had a certain etiquette, and they knew they if they pushed it far enough. We see it in a lot of movie portrayals too. If they push something far enough, uh, like the old Clint Eastwood movies where he just slaps her and like you know when to stop. Now they don't know when to stop, and it's the entitlement that just kills me, and that parroting of that it just gets under your skin now. And but that's what we're here to try to explain, and it seems like we're at a point now where they're not going to change, and we're not going to change, and that's it.
That's why the Mgtow level of understanding is so much more important than the MRA level. At the MRA level, again, I would like to reiterate this. There's two distinct understandings.
Yes.
At the MRA level, the understanding is that females are fundamentally operating in good faith, and therefore, if you simply show them their mistake, then they will come around and correct that mistake. The Mgtow version understands that they're not making a mistake. It's very intentional, because they're not acting in good faith. They're acting in aggression. What they're looking to do is simply take everything and give nothing on purpose. It's not by accident. It's by design. And so once men come to that realization, you can actually deal with it, effectively, like Mgtow do.
Yeah, we often say it's in their biology, and then we'll get the no, it's not in there. Some women are, the no Walt, some women are okay, and it was no, all women are that way. We just had a example in the earlier discussion with I can't remember who put it up. If you go back to the beginning, he said no, just went through something with his sister now. And that would like, okay, well, if it's his sister, it's not a wife, it's not a girlfriend, it's a kinship bond, and she was acting that way. Yes, it's all women are that way. Hello, Warhorse. I think Warhorse's sound is not on yet, so Warhorse is in now too, so he'll be on in a few minutes.
Yeah. My sound is coming in and out, gentlemen. So if I drop out for a little while, just understand what's going on.
Okay, yeah, you actually sound great. Your sound is very crisp and very very good for. Is this your first podcast?
Yeah, absolutely, and it's the audio coming back to me is also breaking up, and that's my problem over here.
Okay, but it sounds good to me actually, and I don't have to do no settings or anything in the control room, but it does sound great to me, and that was a learning curve there, huh? Just trying to figure out how to get in here, and oh God, how's my sound going to work? And we like to do the sound checks beforehand, and get everybody in a kind of a room before, but that didn't today. I kind of, oops, he fell out. We had both Warhorse and Howard fall out. There must be something with Google. What are those glitches again, huh? Male feelings?
Technical difficulties today, but fortunately, you and I haven't had any yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Unfortunately, if I fall out, if Google falls out on me, the whole broadcast goes dead, and I've had that happen before.
So you were, did you mention? I think maybe before I came, but were you talking at all about the gravitational waves?
Yeah, the gravitational waves. Them are interesting, huh? It quantifies Einstein's theory, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's really exciting. It's really, what an achievement. It's mind blowing to think that, yeah, the whole thing is mine. But I was kind of interested. I bring it up because, I don't know I watched the press release and everything.
Hmm.
I don't know if any other Mgtow out there did, but it's interesting because, you have the guys who actually like created the whole thing, right? And then you have these females who are all sort of like the administrators and the directors and the spokespeople all kind of like taking credit for it, like leeching off of it.
Oh, yeah, we talk
Um,
about that all the time. The three tiers of gynocentrics, above, and it's above the men that are actually doing the work.
It's so brutal. I mean, these guys are geniuses. They've poured their life into it, and then you have some lady who's like the director of the NSA, total obviously affirmative action,
Hmm.
and she basically gets to just take a lot of the credit for this. And yeah, I mean,
Yeah, because she's going to do the press release.
exactly. And
And
then,
then,
yeah,
oh my God, yeah, and then she'll randomly forget to invite the actual guys that did the work in.
Hey,
That is,
hey guys, can you hear me?
yes.
Good. Okay.
There.
I'm
No,
having a problem here too. I see in the comments section, Zeta, James, and a couple other guys are all saying that the podcast is dropping out, which I've had it drop out on me about, geez, 7, 8 times now since it started.
huh.
I don't know what's going on. It must be a Google problem because I'm
yeah,
not the only one getting it.
it
When I
seems to
came
be.
in before, I joined up, but I had no audio and nothing happening on the screen. So some weird shit going on today.
Th- uh,
Yeah.
Zeta just said the same similar comments. So
Yeah, yeah. Hmm.
Hmm. Seems to be a Google problem. It may be because of the large amount of snow and the cold that we're receiving in the north about now. But it can just be Google censoring us, like always. We've had that problem. We had that problem where we just totally dropped out once. And what happens is Google's going to switch it to the main page after I forget how long on the air. And then if they see that there's viewers in it, they'll switch it to the main page and start putting out as on what you see, what you get fed, your feeds, and then that's when it'll start dropping in and out. Sometimes they do it very effortlessly, but like today, I can see because I'll go back and do my when I look at it, I can go back in and see. I can inspect the elements on everything and see what happened, and they'll tell me exactly what happened. Last time this happened, that was the problem. They were switching it to their main page, so it might clear up, and it might be some weather stuff. And I'm sorry. I'll apologize to the men out there if they're dropping in and out right now.
It's nothing you're doing, Joe.
Yeah, yeah. I'm responsible for the weather.
I was thinking
As a man, yeah, that's what they would say.
Yeah.
maybe International Mgtow Day is overwhelming the tubes.
Oh yeah,
Really
it's like
hope.
it's a big DOS attack on the media right now because we're all just doing our International Mgtow Day stuff.
We're crashing the internet, guys.
Yeah,
Right.
the smell of burning steaks must be overwhelming them.
Yeah, yeah. Men out there doing things by themselves, they got to be noticing something's wrong here. They
Yeah.
gotta shut us down. But it's got a festive feeling today. Does it have a festive feeling to you after doing it for the second year?
Who? Me?
Yeah,
Yeah, I didn't even think about it until everybody started bringing up Valentine's Day, and then I thought, oh yeah, that's right, it's MGTOW Day too, and
yeah.
I thought, well, shit, I'm gonna make a big steak, but I've changed my mind. I'm gonna have some chicken breasts, and do that up. So it doesn't matter what I decide to do; it's what I decided to do. Not that
What?
I promised it to anybody,
Yeah,
and
that's the
I,
thing, isn't it?
yeah, I mean, nobody's going, but I wanted steak. Well, I don't have that. I'm just going to make what I want to make. And I have a steak in the freezer too, but yeah, I just didn't feel like having one. So I'm going to be doing something else. And I thought, yeah, it is kind of a good feeling, you know, not having to spend $20 on fucking chocolate that most of it you get handed back to you because they don't want to eat it, and you know, it's not the right kind, or you know, well, the flowers, that's a waste of money, a $2, $3 card for you know, the shelf to sit there for a week, and then you know, I don't know, man, it's never enough with these women. It never is.
Oh yeah. That's a Howard. Were you in relationships, or were
Oh
you
yeah.
married at one point?
Oh yeah.
So that whole thing after the marriage or after the relationships where there's no woman around, and that's what we're kind of talking about, our independence, when you go to the coffee maker and you start making the coffee you want, and then how the eggs you want them,
Oh
and
yeah.
you know, all that. Is that did you experience that in your life?
Honestly, whenever I got together with a woman, within about anywhere from like 3 months to 2 years, it would just be like, I don't want this person around anymore. You know. Now, when I was younger, it was like, you know, I want to replace, you know, with a different one. But as I've gotten older, you know, I could not do the things I do if I had a woman around telling me what to do. I get up before the sunrise. I'm, you know, going out and exercising, working out, and, you know, it just wouldn't be possible with somebody sitting around here telling me how disappointed they are in all the things I didn't do for them.
Oh yeah.
Well, you know, it's funny. I mean, I'm damn near 60 years old, and I still get the occasional, you know, well, are you going to date again? And I'm like, no, and why not? And I found that the simple answer, which is true, is I'm too set in my ways. And I'm not going to change for anybody, nor do I want anybody in my life to have to change for. You know, I don't want
Yeah,
to have to live up
absolutely.
to
You know,
anybody's expectations. Fuck them. I mean, you know, what is there in it for me? That's the way I look at it.
Relationships are for women.
Sure. Oh, look, I was married the last time 28 years, so I have a clue. I've gotten laid before, guys. I'm not a virgin living in mommy's basement.
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Although
a funny one.
I do have a neck beard.
Yeah, I mean, the idea, just the term relationship, you know, when you think about it, it's just come into common vernacular in like the past, I don't know, 20 years. It's like every other word out of everyone's mouth is relationship, you know. You have a lot of pop songs about relationships and all this shit. And when you realize
The
that
movies.
that whole thing is very much coming from the female perspective, because they're the ones who are really like, you know, pushing the whole relationship agenda, because they're the ones who profit from it. Because as Warhorse, you just said, it's really about you bending to the female's, you know, desires in a relationship. And so it's like, fuck that, you know, why, you know, where's the return on that?
Well, you
Oh
know,
yeah,
it's funny
it's
because
the
when my
female
wife
manipulating.
sorry about that,
Go ahead,
Howard.
Howard.
Go ahead.
When my wife, you know, when I was married to her and everything, and we'd sit around, and occasionally, you know, I'd do something, you know, she'd say something, I'd jump up and do it and whatever. And she used to tell people, yeah, I got them trained pretty well. And, you know, to me, that didn't even bother me. I mean, it was just like, yeah, okay, so what, you know? But when you look back on it and think about it, you actually were trained. You know, they do kind of manipulate you into that without you even realizing that that's what happened. So, you
Yeah.
know, once you get away from it, you start to realize the freedom that you were missing. And at that point, the thinking man, a logical thinking man, would say, no, I'm not going to go back to that. You know, it's not in my best interest.
Totally. Yeah, relationships are for two things. One, they're for women because they profit from you as a shovel, as a slave, as you say, you know. And then the other one is for procreation. So it's like, you know, in order to kind of raise kids, you know, that relationship has a function. But outside of that, it's really just it's a total net loss to you, because it's always all about the female. You know?
Yeah. Well, no doubt about that. I mean, my wife always made mention that she always felt safe with me, and I was certainly a white knight, no doubt, especially for her. When I was younger, for my mother, any woman I ever had, really, even if it was a girl that I lived with or one that I was dating for a while, I'd beat the hell out of anybody for any reason, and it didn't matter if she started the shit or not. So you become brainwashed, and you don't realize it at the time. It's just this whole staturing thing that you do in your own head to justify it. And like I said, once you look at it after the fact, you feel a little bit ashamed of it. I mean, I can't change the past. I can't change who I was, but I readily admit that, yeah, I was that. So you move on. You learn. You get smart. Unfortunately for me, I'm learning at a very late stage in life, if you will. My eyes were opened getting out of the marriage and what have you, moving on. But, man, I wish I had this information when I was in my 20s.
God, yes.
Heck yeah, man. Yeah.
Well, we didn't have the internet back then.
Yeah, maybe that this information can now be gotten out to guys in their 20s.
Yeah, we're getting it, but we're getting some blowback from those guys because they're still fighting the hormones, and look, I don't blame them. God, I was a horny bastard when I was in my 20s,
Yeah.
And I don't think I really slowed down until I was, in my 40s. I was still fairly active, very active sexually. Of course, I was married, but all looking at other women. Not that I went after them, but I certainly had that mentality. And, it was just something so normal that you didn't think about it. I was chasing the pussy. I liked the pussy. And at times you think about it, fantasizing in your head about doing her or doing this and doing that. So, the information has to come in from somewhere. And I didn't have that information coming into me from any avenue whatsoever. So, now the guys are getting it a lot earlier on, even if they make the mistakes in their 20s, of doing it and they get the hurt, they can say, damn it, these guys were right, and then they buckle down at a lot earlier age, which is, it's a wonderful thing.
Oh, yeah, I think we just went down to 3 viewers, so we got kicked off again. I don't know what Google is doing.
I'm showing 7 watching now.
I got one.
Yeah, I got 1 viewer watching.
Oh,
right
jeez.
now. So,
But it just happened. I think for most of your talk there, it was still on. I think there were.
Yeah.
Well, that's okay. I'm not that interesting. Maybe that's why everybody left.
What you're saying though, about the man being in this automatic mode of chasing pussy is exactly correct. It's exactly what they're going to do biologically, and they don't realize that women are just set up to manipulate this and to extract those resources out of the man and to emotionally, pull his strings and to come at him from all different sides. So. Yep. The men are just going crazy by the time they're in their mid-30s, just trying to please these women. I met a guy, well-off guy, everything like that, just jumping through hoops for a woman that doesn't care about him, that's just running him through the ringer, and he's like buying her new houses and stuff like that. And when I tried to talk to him, like maybe there's a better way, all he could do was look at me and say, hey, I'm not gay. What do you want me to do? And I was thinking, gee, it would be nice if you could conduct yourself with some dignity, like you weren't begging from this woman, you weren't behaving like a dog, you weren't actually giving her the moral sanction, like you were going along with it. The guy was going along with it. So I feel that as people can, get that message, right, and just say, wait a minute, if I don't think about this, if I just go on automatic, this woman's gonna, take me down a road that I don't want to go down. If you can get that information into the young man, he'll be like, okay, I see where this is going, and I'm not going to let it happen that way. And that's really what's motivating me.
Yeah, and as you describe it there, to me, kind of one of the important things I like to stress is that you know, you can sort of learn these things on an intellectual level, and you can kind of understand it. But the reason that Mgtow, you know, that this community, excuse me, I think tends to persist and is and should persist, is because these instincts are so deeply ingrained in our biology and our programming that it's not just like a one and done. You don't just learn it and then now you're impervious to it forever. After that, it's kind of like a practice. To me, it's like something you have to perpetually practice to you know, to avoid gynocentrism. Because just, you know, like you said, there's so many tricks, there's so many, her toolbox is so deep, right? And your vulnerabilities are sort of so varied and many and difficult to see that it's a constant case of development, I think, to really overcome it. It's like something you just have to aspire to. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like martial arts.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? It's like you've always got to be in top shape. Otherwise, a woman's going to make this appeal to your biology, and you're going to shut down. It's going to shut down the rational brain. You know, and it's going to be like, oh, I've got to please this person, and then this person, this woman, is just gonna, you know, depending on her character, you know, she can really, you know, hurt a man, and the man just wants to get laid, and what a nightmare, you know. He's just following his biology. And, you know, it can destroy a life, you know, so it's serious. And the things that these feminists are doing in the colleges, the social justice warriors, what these people are doing is an all-out assault on freedom of speech, individual rights, and they're doing it just so that they can get, like, more ice cream. They're like little kids who are whining and complaining, you know, pitching a fit, like, you hurt my feelings, I need safe spaces, I don't want you to talk about this, and they're killing free speech, and all they're getting out of it is just this little, like, oh, we're sorry, you know, here's a little bit of extra ice cream, here's a safe space for you, go pet a puppy, you know,
See,
and I don't want to see it happen.
They're acting like hysterical children, not getting their way or getting you to buy something for them in a little store, you know, they go and have a temper tantrum. And what's happening is they're capitulating to these grown little children. It's beyond reprehensible, you know, that they would even put up with this type of talk, like a professor or anybody, putting up with that type of back talk from students. I'd kick them out on their goddamn asses. I don't care what they paid for, you know. But they don't. They don't. They're looking at the holier-than-thou dollar, and they're conceding. But then again, I look back at my youth, colleges in the 60s, you know, with the anti-war protest, and remember the, you know, Ohio State, you know, with the shootings, the 4 dead, you know. The protests were pretty fucked up back then, too. And, of course, the feminism was part of that, even back then, you know, with the hippie, the peace movement, and all that shit. So it snowballed to where we are nowadays.
They kind of got their way in through, you know, that whole, you know, the civil rights, the war protesting, the feminist, and, you know, even on its surface, it's like, yeah, sure, women should have equal rights before the law, but it's a Trojan horse, and it's just been ripping us apart, you know, the culture and the men for 50 years.
It's been the parents. It's basically my age group that's at fault here because, you know, not me personally, but because I always took a hard-nosed stand on any of this kind of shit. I was never a hippie, but, you know, the hippies and everything, the love and peace movement, that, you know, spare the rod, spoil the child, and all this and that, and as children got older, they said, oh, that's okay, let them do what they want at college, we did it, you know, and then those children got older, and this is where we end up now. You know, with this open-minded, free-thinking, anything-goes bullshit, and my kids are always right, you know. This is a mentality that we actually started back then, you know, my generation, the people in my age group. So,
yeah, it's really, it's just, it's frightening and shocking. It's mind-blowing to see where it is, because it's not we're not like a little bit ways down the road, but it's 100% assault on everything that supposedly, was great about, kind of the American experiment, right? Free speech. It's 100% assault on free speech and expression. And as you say there, Warhorse, so like there was a headline just yesterday that over 50% of college students prefer communism. Communism. 50.
Sure.
And
we're not going to turn this around. We're not going to turn it around very quickly. It took 50 years to get here.
It's terrible. I don't know what to do about it. It's like descending back into the dark ages. Everything. The Constitution, of the United States was an enlightened time in history. They drew on so much that we had learned throughout, all of the wars and everything, the thousands, the classics. They drew on so much to craft, the United States Constitution, and so now to basically undo that and be like, well, no, let's go back to, just whatever, just like jungle rules, is very weird. It's weird to see that happening. It really is, especially from supposedly, these academics who are supposedly intelligent. I mean, these guys. I mean, it's such a testament to their stupidity that the whole thing is a fraud. Like, how can they be that dumb?
Well, I'd see it this way. Look, if we want things to be normalized again, with children being raised a little bit better and what have you, we're going to have to go back to a 1950s type mentality. Okay, and I don't think anybody wants to go back to that. But I don't see another answer. We can't go back into the 60s beatnik and hippie movement, because that's what started this shit.
Right.
The 50s was teenagers were still rebelling a little bit, the Happy Days crowd and whatever, where they were feeling their way around, but they weren't out of hand. They weren't out of control. The 1960s, basically, everything started to get out of control. The 70s and 80s, everything just fucking lost its collective mind, and then it just snowballed after that.
Yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
The 60s, it's funny because it's a classic case of hijacking to me. So to me, the original idea for the the 60s movement was basically anti-Vietnam and anti-war, which is like good, right? But it's very clearly, you have to see how something that was was sort of well-intentioned was completely co-opted and corrupted by this thing that we now know as feminism and this communist whatever. They took that and used it for their own purposes.
Well, it was more than just the anti-war. It was anti-society.
Yeah, right.
It was don't trust anybody over 30. Anybody that owns a refrigerator is part of the establishment. I mean, you had all these sayings. Tune in, check out, and get high and whatever. This is all things that we actually lived by. That we believed this shit, and it was checking out that really caused the whole thing to snowball. Where you had communes, you had your, subcultures were going wild at the time. So it wasn't just the anti-war movement, although that was a big part of it, and that had a lot to do with the universities and colleges back in those days. And there was a problem with the war, but the other problem was just the way society was so stagnant and suffocating to people that they started to rebel against it, and they went off the deep end. They jumped off the cliff, literally.
Yeah, the war was just a spark and a powder keg at that point in the anti-establishment and the free love. I think, if you follow the hippie movement, it was more about independence, a growing independence in the youth movement. They're feeling they wanted to be independent, they wanted to be unique, and but the spark plug in that whole thing was the war. Now this. Where feminism hijacked it, and it's very, very different. They did the anti-establishment totally, and then they looked at it as a gender-based. It's the patriarchy. It must be the patriarchy. You know, that's where we.
Right. Yeah. That's
Yeah,
what I'm
and they
saying.
blame that on the men, you know, and you're exactly right. It is these giving into their feelings and setting those as the primary concern, rejecting the past, where, you know, we had to use rationality, we had to use male strength to get us to the 60s, and then based on the feelings that these kids, you know, they're pitching these fits, that it's shutting, you know, it ends up shutting down the whole system, and it begins the undermining of everything.
Look, that back then feminism
It's like an
jumped on the
inversion of
free.
values.
The feminism jumped on the free love movement.
Yeah.
You know,
They
where
hijacked
women were becoming so promiscuous because of the hippie thing and the drugs and what have you, and feminism took that as, wow, empowering. You know, all these women are spreading their legs with everybody and anybody, and look, men enjoyed that. I did, you know, and
Yeah,
we
I
took
thought it was going to
advantage
be a
of it.
great deal as a young man. I thought this is going to be great.
Yeah, of course. We all did. You know, nobody turned that shit down. I mean, very few people did. You know, maybe if you were uber religious or whatever, yeah, you know. But for the most part, we all took advantage of it, and feminism grabbed that and ran with it. I mean, we never saw it coming. We got blindsided.
They hijacked it. Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. And yeah, I just that's why, you know, the whole feelings thing, you know, you take it's so corrupt, because here's the thing. This is the thing. You know, women, or the whole thing right now, the movement, that their movement is basically that, you know, feelings trump logic, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Exactly.
my feelings are the truth, and, you know, and that's what matters, is my feelings, right? And it doesn't, and the objectivity doesn't matter, you know, the feelings trump it. So then you have to ask, okay, well, let's look at your feelings. You know, what are your feelings like? What's the quality of them? What's the nature of them? And what you find, as soon as you look, is that they're completely corrupt. You know, they're like,
Yeah.
like, what are
Yeah,
they doing?
their feelings are based on envy and resentment and claiming
Exactly.
oppression from men when they're not being oppressed by men. They're being oppressed by their own limitations and by the requirements that we have to adapt ourselves to reality, not pitch a fit and expect reality to adapt itself to us. That's what they're oppressed by, but they're blaming the men, and then they're stealing from the men in a form of like a sexual cannibalism, you know?
Right.
Yeah, they took the idea of free love and that whole beautiful movement that happened, and they made it sex positive feminism,
Right.
which is a very, very selfish thing. You know, it's like they hijacked it. They made it sex positive. I don't know exactly. I've never really sat down and read that whole thing about sex positive feminism, but I'm sure it's the whole feminism thing over, or the me entitlement stuff. And you know, what I can do that without realizing that with any right like that, there is accountability and responsibility, and that's it. We always seem to come back to them two words with women, don't we?
Yeah, but look, Joe, you know, it's ask a woman today what she wants, and, you know, ask her later on today, and it'll
Yeah.
change. So, you know, as long as they can never make up their mind what they want, they just know what they want like a child at the time they want it, right? And if they don't get it, then they blame everybody else. So asking them to take responsibility when they don't even know or have a clear-cut idea in their head of what they're trying to achieve, what they're trying to go after. They keep flip-flopping back and forth. They don't know, and then when they do get it, and we've capitulated enough to these women over the decades now, you know, of putting them up on a pedestal, giving them what they want. We get tired of listening to them bitch. The damn harpies have nagged us into compliance.
Yeah.
And we have now gotten to the point where, you know what, you can't make up your goddamn mind. Leave us the hell alone.
Yeah.
And I think this is where we've gotten down to the Mgtow thing, where we're just saying, all right, I can't take your nagging anymore. Piss off. Leave me alone. I'm going my own way. I think this is what happened, a natural progression.
Yeah, we've seen the horrors of what happened from that, and I'm a product of that. I'm a product of the hippie commune, And you got the sex positive, you got all this, you got these beliefs in individualism, and then what had happened is you can go watch the on TV and look at the hippie communes and everything and how we're going to build our own communities. And it's sort of like what Mgtow was saying too. We're going to build our own communities, but with that community, guess what you need? You need electric, you need water, you need things to, you have to get busy, you have to take an accountability, there's a certain responsibility that comes with wanting your own society. But we can look at the disastrous the disastrous effects of that in some of these communes where children were just so impoverished that that it was horrible, and I'm a product of that myself. My mother and father were hippies, and my sister was a big hippie. She was the oldest sister, and I look back at the absolute poverty I was raised in.
Yeah.
And it's horrible. It's just horrible.
Yeah,
and we keep with this idea, and then they're trying to fix it. They're trying to fix it in their head, but they're never really getting it, are they?
No, well, back then, not taking a bath was beautiful. Living in squalor and filth was natural and beautiful. Everything was fucking beautiful.
Yeah.
I never got along with hippies. I mean, occasionally we used to go chase after the hippie girls because they were easy. But other than that, the rest of the hippies were, pretty much dirty. I mean,
yeah,
goddamn, just people you really didn't want to be around.
Yeah, I'm from similar stock there, yeah, sort of the hippie thing, and so I completely empathize. I mean, I totally know where it's coming from, and that's the thing is it's so regressive because if you think of all of history. And I don't know, I'm just saying, the whole communist thing, right, it's a very simple idea. It's either you have private property or you have public property, shared. Everything is either shared or you have a private claim to stuff. And it seems obvious. It's pretty, I mean, the evidence is so overwhelming that while the idea of sharing everything is nice because then everybody is sharing and happy, the practical reality of it is that private property is far more the quality of life is much higher under a system of private property. So that's why it's hard for me to understand how they can look at all of the evidence and still be trying to pull us back into the dark ages and essentially go back to communism. It's bizarre, right?
Well, you know what I think more on the Mgtow thing here, and I don't think Mgtow can become communal, but it can be on an individual basis of checking out, doing your own thing within your own little reality. In other words, you create your own bubble. It isn't a communal thing like the hippie culture was back then. That won't work. None of us will ever get along if we're on top of each other 24 hours a day. I fear that most of us would kill each other. Okay,
Right.
To be quite honest with you, I think we would. Okay,
strong, independent men, they don't necessarily work well with other people, but if they can work with other strong, independent, fair-minded men, things do tend to work out.
Yes, if we have a goal, if we work on a goal, let's say we're building something, a house or a car, or whatever it may be, and we do that together as a group, all right, we will accomplish that and make some great things. But as far as living together, getting into each other's lives as to who takes a shower when, or who's cooking what, or any of this stuff, or even whose food is in the refrigerator, would start to interfere. So if you're not focused on a goal, on completing a project or doing something like this, you're going to get in each other's hair. That's why a community, or having this be a what do you call it? I'm looking for a word here. As far as Mgtow getting together and being a movement, a movement, if you will. It's not going to work. But on an individual basis, as we get together, doing things like we are now, this works out perfectly. In an hour from now, or what have you, we're going to hang up, we're going to go our own way, do our own things, and be happy about it again. This is how it works out. And
Yeah.
this is what needs to spread, not the old communal idea.
Yeah. There's the idea, and this kind of comes from feminism in my early days, and we talked about it a lot, about a rotary administration instead of authoritarian administration. What we have going in Mgtow is a rotary administration where someone takes the lead, and it's like the geese. I like to explain it like the geese. The geese, if you watch them when they fly, there's never the lead alpha in the lead. They rotate, and then everybody gets their say, and it kind of works out better that way.
Exactly.
And I can see MGTOW being that way because that's the way men work to get from one place to the next, like the geese. But there's the problem of what I call noxious grass, and you got to do some imagery with me. If you buy property and you're in this community, someone's going to have to mow the grass. You know, women, that's the part women don't get. Someone's going to have to cut down the trees. Someone's going to have to put the plumbing in. Someone's going to have to put the... Men get that very well. We work together on the noxious grass very well.
Yeah, I think what we do too is we allow each other. If you have a strong point, let's say you do plumbing, and I do something like bricklaying better, we allow each other to do what we do best. Now, if I'm sitting in a room full of mechanics, okay, and we're all the same type of mechanic, oh shit, it's going to go down into some headbutting here,
Oh yeah, who's the best maintenance man?
It's gonna be that chest beating, that I got a bigger dick than you. Once you get all these guys together that are in the same field professionally or what have you, if that's their strong suit, then you get into the trouble. Now, when you diversify that, and everybody has their own niche, then it works out very well because we're willing to let the guy that knows more about something else take that lead.
It's very cooperative in its nature, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys, anyone's familiar with Peter Thiel, big investor guy, but he has a great comment. He says, if you want to drive two people, because he's really about how monopoly is actually the objective. The objective is to differentiate, right? That's the important thing in life and business. And if you really want to drive people crazy, tell two people to do the same thing, because then you just have this. It's like rats in a cage. You get this really unnecessary competition with two people, vying for sort of the same thing. It's both all mechanics or something. It's dumb.
Yeah, I could see
the whole
that.
idea of communism pooling together that they brought in with the hippies. It's an assault on individual rights, because it's really saying, it's like, let's say you're a really capable worker, a plumber or something like that, and you've got a couple of other people who really don't have any skills at all. Well, they're going to be really anxious to get together with you and, supposedly, pool their skills together, but you're the only one with real skills. So the idea that, we're in this together and we're all doing this as a group, it's a bunch of bullshit, because we're not. And the only people who want to say that we're, all in this together and we're doing this as a group are the people who want to take advantage of the other people's resources.
Exactly.
And it's an attack on individualism. It's an attack on freedom.
Individualism is not individualistic. I just did a video about this. We all develop in our persona differently, and that's the cooperative. That's the what they call the. We are byproducts of all we have been, and individualism is, and that's when the millennial boys and the millennials that we see around here get this idea of individualism as individualistic, and then they walk off into the woods by themselves, and then you find there's the far end of one bar where you're not going to get nothing done being so individualistic that you're starving yourself out. You have to work in a community at some point in your life. Life is a big community, or else we just cease to exist. So if you want to build a building, you got to get men with certain traits in there. And it happens, and then all those traits are individualisms, and you are a product of your psyche, your your certain what you grew up, what all the information you took, and you can use that very well. But what I see as a problem in a lot of people is they're so individualism. They rely, and that's what the all boys get to play thing. Just because he wants to doesn't mean he can. And you're so individualistic that it becomes a problem for the community, because an army of one doesn't work. You know.
Yeah, it's yeah, very true. We have to. I mean, it's sort of that interesting kind of problem where it's like you have to have individualism, but you also have to have. Well, I'm just saying it's sort of what you're describing is the challenge of maintaining individualism, but also recognizing how quote unquote collectivism, but really it's just cooperation is ultimately necessary,
yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Ultimately you have to have cooperation, but it's not what you don't do is you don't put the group before the individual. That's when you've crossed the line. That's when you've gone stupid. And
yeah.
you know, and that's the big thing with women and you know, women's and the and all the feminism and everything. They, you know, one of their biggest sledgehammers is the whole "my body, my choice," right?
Yeah.
The whole abortion thing, and so that's one of their hugest weapons. And what they're at the core of that is really the idea of self-ownership. So they are, on one hand, they're saying nobody has any right to influence at all what I do with my body, right? And which is the correct position in a sense, right?
Right.
That's what came out of the Enlightenment, was self-ownership. You know, the king doesn't own you, nobody owns you, you own yourself and what comes from you. So the irony is that that's their sledgehammer that they use to benefit themselves, but then for everybody else, you can see that everything they do is aimed at depriving everyone else of self-ownership. So, you know, like a male's assets can be confiscated by the state and given to the female. That means he doesn't own him. You know, they're saying, no, you don't get to own yourself and your stuff, but I do. You know.
Yeah. That's all fine. Their idealism is all fine and dandy until it's applied idealism, you know.
Right. So it's applied in principle, exactly.
And then it's very selfish. They're very selfish, and why feminists can't see. We are saying exactly what they are saying in a sense, that we just want our sovereignty and we just want our individualism, and you know, if they just applied what they want to the whole thing, it would be fine. But women cannot see that. I don't know what the disconnect in their parietal lobe is, that they just can't see that.
I think it's biological, and I think it goes all the way back to prehistoric times, where if and when they did become pregnant, they were still competing with their mate. And if they lost their mate, if their mate went out hunting and got killed by a saber-toothed tiger, the female had to be prepared to just kind of like say, oh, well, I guess I got to go find a new mate, or I guess I got to go, you know, rely on the group. So they've got this kind of attitude towards men, that men, you know, like men really value women. They want to protect them. They want to take care of them. They want to win their, you know, approval and things like that. But women will just throw a man away like he's nothing.
Yeah,
there's no That's the big lie, is that, you know, when the females are pushing this equal partnership and all this and that and whatever, but deep down inside, this is the important thing, is that they use this rhetoric of equality, but deep down inside, going back to, first of all, they're feelings-based, right? So they're pushing that society should be feelings-based, but then looking at their feelings, what is the nature of their feelings? There's no reciprocity in their feelings. You know, men care about women like genuinely, authentically, you know, naturally, and women don't care about men genuinely, authentically, naturally. So if you let the feelings of such a corrupt, you know, foundation run the society, then it's going to turn out the way it is.
Right. I'll always say hypergamy is some ancient ritual in hyperdrive. It's in hyperdrive, and they can't turn that off, and we're telling them, please turn that off, because it's becoming destructive to the community. But they cannot turn that hyperdrive off. They still gather and hunt, and they don't hunt, but they still gather and collect, and they can't turn that off. And in this modern society, there has to be a mechanism that says, no, you have to turn that off. And the Red Queen has to stop running at a certain point because it's becoming damaging to us, isn't it?
Mgtow.
Well, I think that, it's always been there. The hypergamy's always been there. Women have always used men for their own purposes, if you will. The manipulation was more subtle back in days gone by. Now they're very upfront about it, and they don't care. They don't mind showing that that's exactly what they're doing, and we had better like it, or we can all piss off and they won't give us any pussy, right? So this is the new attitude we're getting now. It's not that hypergamy's gotten any worse or better. It's always been about the same.
But it is what it is. It's just an ancestral evolutionary thing that should be dropped. It's like women have a tail, and that tail is hypergamy, and let's lose that tail. That's what we're saying.
Yeah, let's women come into the modern age.
That's not going to happen. They're not going to lose the hypergamy. It's not to their benefit. Not physically, not naturally, not mentally. They can't compete on a one-on-one basis. Women cannot compete with men. I'm sorry. If they didn't start to put laws in place that give them an advantage, a huge advantage, they cannot compete, and they know it. So hypergamy, for the women that don't try to run this feminist dogma, or, whatever, utilizing laws and everything else at their disposal, they are going to be hypergamous as hell for their own benefit.
It's a good point. It brings us to a crossing the road to sort of the difficult thing at the center of all this, which is once we really know how shitty things are, once you peel back all the lies and you see the nature of the true nature of the circumstance, which is how rotten the female is at her core.
Yeah.
And and then the nature of men being very vulnerable to her wickedness. Where do you go from there? What's sort of the mathematical solution to that, problem?
It's a pussification of men. That each generation is getting more and more effeminate, and this is what needs to turn around. You're not going to turn the nature of women around.
Only the men who appease women and behave as women want them to behave are able to, really effectively reproduce, build families, gather wealth. The men who do go their own way, who say no to women, are usually driven out from society. So, yeah, it's the pussification, and it's getting worse generation after generation.
But we're seeing that change now with the Enlightenment, the Red Pill. I think we are going through an era of Enlightenment, and we're seeing Mgtow now. We're seeing men go, whoa, wait, no, that doesn't work for me. We're seeing the idea of men can gather a lot of wealth now if they put this thing away. And men are very attuned to that now, aren't they?
Yeah, but I appreciate that. But I think there's one thing that usually doesn't get brought up there, which is that. What's his name? The metaphysics guy did a really good one on this, which was the series of trenches. Like like the first trench is marriage, the next trench is just dating and living together, and the next trench is whatever. So they've already invaded marriage, and that's a completely just a death sentence for men. But the point is, in the current we currently have enough vestiges of the old system that men can sort of maybe go their own way and gather wealth or live a reasonable life. But the point is, these things, it's a constant push. They're not stopping, they're not settling down, and so ultimately, they're going to keep coming, and they're going to just as simple things as the bachelor tax, already if you realize how much the average middle class guy is paying in taxes, it's totally oppression, it's totally tyrannical. So point is we can't, the idea that we can just kind of go our own way and just kind of have an awesome life, I think is a very temporal proposition, unfortunately. Like there's got to be some, there's got to be pushback. Otherwise, it's only temporary that would last.
If enough men actually do become aware of this, change throughout history is usually, it doesn't take 51%, it takes 5% of very active, highly motivated people. And in this day and age, if you can kind of like manipulate the media into carrying your message, it can spread really fast. And kind of going back, taking this back to principles, I think that this fight that Mgtow are gearing up towards with feminist social justice warriors is the same fight that freedom-loving, brave, smart people, men, have been engaged in throughout history. I kind of think that the whole principles of America are founded on basically Mgtow principles. We're not going to continue to participate in a relationship where we're being cheated.
Yeah, that's.
I don't know if you can really call it a fight with Mgtow. I think checking out is more likely to be what we're doing, and though we are fighting in a covert way, more than an MRM or MRA type of frontal approach. By just walking away, we're achieving something, but we're not controlling it. I think the whole idea of Mgtow is to let go of that and just walk away from things.
I agree. I agree.
I mean, we take our licks.
You have to let go of the past. You have to let go of that idealism. But like Christopher Columbus, when he was getting in that boat, he was letting go of England. He was searching for something better, and then this idea of America came up, and you embrace your future, not your past. And
yeah. Well, yeah, Mgtow is definitely geared towards helping the individual man, but as the individual men wake up and become aware of the situation.
Yeah, I wonder.
What I mean, they'll start to say no, is what'll happen. And if enough people say that, things can change from a very subtle place, from a very, just from the individual man, is what I'm saying. So it can work both ways, I think.
Well, networking would be very important in Mgtow. Right. Finding ways to beat the system, like the single man tax or paying more for auto insurance or anything. If you're a single guy, you're going to pay more for auto insurance than if you're married. And when we find roundabout ways of beating the system, we need to share this with each other, and keep that up until we finally get the system to open its eyes to where they continue to fight it until they become so obvious with what they're doing that they can no longer sustain that type of ideology from the standpoint of, let's say, an insurance company, or what have you.
Yeah.
The big problem is the state, though. That's the one where you have no real, when they're coming for 60% of your crop, I don't know where that goes,
There's lots of opportunity. It's not just what the state takes, from an individual man. It's the idea that the regulations that are all around you, the taxing of all of the business opportunities all around you, have made it so there's really no jobs for the person to find, and you can't even really quantify and add that stuff up.
Yeah, the single male now being taxed, or if he has child support and that and alimony and everything, he used to be able to have a business and employ 2, 3, 4, 5, up to 400, 600 people. Now that's what you lose when you get this tax. You lose the ability to do that.
Absolutely. I don't think. I mean, it is so corrupt the way it works, because we don't tend to think about, if you imagine every point along the economy where the government is sucking money out of, like they tax, we all know about the income tax, that's right in our face. But if you think, everything that is sold from one company to another, each component for every part, et cetera, everything is taxed. You realize, and then the money that you're actually taxed, so the company makes money, and then they're taxed 20%, and then out of that 20%, they got to pay you, and then there's a payroll tax that comes out of it, and then on the other side of that, there's your income tax that comes out of that. They're sucking up all of the money. It's completely, I mean.
Oh yeah, the logistics. If you look at the logistics of any product, you see that it's very effective to make these products or a widget at 25 cents, and then after the widget, and especially if the widget is an interest to the government, so like say tobacco, gasoline, or any of those things, it gets taxed so many times by the time there's your price, there's your cost, and that's why we go back into this Mgtow thing about minimalism, and then okay, listen guys, you make your own loaf of bread, it costs you maybe 40, 50 cents. And then you could take that loaf of bread and see what it costs in the store. There's your tax. You start making your own. You start roasting your own coffee. You get a welder. You start making your own products. You cut back anywhere you can on the country, and that's where the ideal of Mgtow minimalism and Mgtow going galt really, really starts to affect this thing. Because you could, like who was that young man I had in earlier this week? He's making his own parts with a laser, Okay, every time he does that, it's not just the part, it's that $13 upcharge he's going to get that the government's never going to see a single dime on that now.
Totally, that's a great way of thinking about it, or putting it. I hadn't even, the difference between what it costs you to make it yourself versus the market price, everything that's built into that market price is really government bloat. So yeah, that's a good point, man.
Yeah, it's all government bloat. Now we can do this individually as we digress back to the conversation about what you want when you start waking up in the morning, about your coffee, your eggs, your way to get to work. How do you do these things? You can individually affect the system as a Mgtow, going galt, doing your own thing. Every move you make from the time you wake up in the morning to the time you go to bed at night, and what you pay for anything should become a concern as a Mgtow, because it's just life hack this thing. And then I'm saving 25 cents here, I'm saving a dime here, I'm not buying that cup of coffee at Starbucks, I'm not giving the girl at the bakery $2.50 to make something I can make for 40 cents. I'm going to make my own sausage, I'm going to make my own meat products. Well, you can't make your own meat products, but you can make I can do the own processing of my meat. I can buy in bulk. I can start cutting costs back on that. I can, instead of making a single jar of spaghetti, I can make 8 gallons of spaghetti, freeze it, and then take it out as I need it. And then every time I do that, every single time I do that, I'm taking 40 cents, 50 cents out of the corrupt.
Well, look, corporations do this all the time. I've owned many businesses, and you learn very quickly that if you play by their rules and only their rules, and they have enough loopholes in them to where you can play by their rules that they don't want you to play by, and when you abuse them, or you don't abuse them, you just use them to your benefit, they can't do anything to you. And that needs to be done on a more personal level. Like let's say I own business A, B, and C, right? I've got 3 corporations set up. Corporation A buys a piece of machinery for the whole retail price. Okay, now they take that the company owes that money to whoever laid out that money, and then a couple months later, Corporation A sells to Corporation B that piece of equipment at a huge loss. Okay, so now Corporation A takes the loss on that equipment on top of the money they put out. Corporation B now has this cheaper bit of equipment that can be devalued, or crap, I can't think of the name right now, but it can be depreciated for X number of years while you're using the equipment, but you bought it at such a cheap price that you're not really paying any floor tax on it. And then once the depreciation value of it, which I think, if I remember right, was about 5 years, you sell it to Corporation C. And it starts all over again.
Right, you reload it. Yeah.
You know, this is how you beat the system, and we need to do this on a smaller scale, on a personal level, wherever we can. In other words, fly under the radar, abuse the system, if you want to call it abuse, but these are things that they put in motion, and even incorporating is no big deal. You can incorporate, and the government looks at a corporation as a person, as an individual. So it's no longer you, it's that thing now. There's so many ways around this, man. You guys, all of them, need to start looking a little bit deeper than just saying, I'm going to work under the table for a month, and I've got all this cash, and I'm not paying tax. That's not going to get you anywhere.
Yeah, and then they give it right back to the same system. It's being fat there for a minute. You give it right back there to the same system. No, don't give it back to the same system. Continue. Look deep. Yeah, look a lot deeper. Every single step you take as a Mgtow becomes so important to Mgtow's future, and basically, our generations after us, their future too. So every step we take now, be conscious of your Mgtow. Every step I take, I'm conscious. I'm Mgtow conscious now. I'm red pill conscious.
That's a great. I like the way you put that. At Traversable, it's like the whole Matrix things. It's like, just being, instead of just going around, unthinkingly and just kind of being an automaton. Like every step of the way, you're noticing the pieces of the Matrix that are basically, fucking you over.
Yeah, cut those strings. I call it cutting the strings. When I first started looking at my the way I was left in life, after all the blue pill years and the destruction that it had, I noticed that there was strings attached to me, where I was being pulled in so many directions that I had to. It was first I was like, okay, no, I'm just going to go hide, and that's what I did, and I cut all the strings, and then I need these strings here, I need this, I need this, I need this. But I was conscious. There was a consciousness that developed that, man, I was being torn apart by life, and I had to stop that.
Yeah, I've had an interesting, very similar kind of, thought come about that, or perspective on that. It's like you're talking about being torn apart in all these different ways, and the way that it came to me was like when I realized, you're a man, you're a person, and then like, if you take on so you're going to have a job, so you're going to have sort of you're going to have a certain role that you have to play at your job. And then if you have a wife at home, you have a certain role that you have to play at home. You have to play the male provider at home. And if you have kids, you have to play this role of a father, et cetera, et cetera. And then, maybe in the community. And then it becomes, there's no you. You're simply just playing these roles your entire life.
Yeah, you're playing your what they would call a puppet. Yeah.
You never take the mask off.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I've always loved the analogy of a mask. We all wear different masks, or some people call it a different hat. Which we all do, and I think that's normal. We're not going to be the same person going into a bar room that we aren't sitting in our living room. It's just something a little bit different how you act, and that's the normal thing to do. But I think dropping the total, instead of just the mask being on, dropping the total outfit that you might put on, the whole suit, that's imperative. Going out there and feeling more at ease with yourself than trying to put on this entire act all the time.
Right.
It's too much work. You lose
too much. You lose everything.
It's too fake. You're born into the world, you play a series of roles, and you die, and you never, nowhere in there was there ever like a real, did you get to experience, life as yourself, It's like a fake life to me, in a sense, to do that.
Oh yeah.
It does fall back to introspection, doesn't it?
Introspection again. Yeah, we always seem to come back to the point of introspection, and take a deep look at your life, decide what you don't need, what you do need, and that's where that gives you that starting point, doesn't it? and it's like, okay, now I have this real sturdy, firm, what that starting point where I can just start going in one direction until that's played out, and then redo it, center, refocus, get all those strings away from off of you, and then you as a male have a real shot at this thing.
Yeah, and sometimes it takes a slap to the back of the head.
Oh heck yeah!
To get you to start looking at it in that perspective.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And sometimes you're going to get slapped back by society, and that's where your perseverance, your individual, what your persona as a man, what you developed, your tenaciousness, your that man thing, and getting slapped back sometimes is a good thing. You're going to go, okay, I took it, I'm going forward again, and that's when you show the true nature and the true strength and the true beauty of being a man.
Yeah. Thank goodness for International Mgtow Day. This is
Yeah.
We're making progress, right?
Yeah, we're making progress, and Mgtow's hey man, we're just starting here. The starting block. Mgtow is kind of hit off from the starting block, and we're running a little bit now, and that it's going to be a long, tiring race. Tenaciousness. I always like to use the sailing term, tack and tack often, and that'll keep those strings in you. If for the guys that don't know what tacking is, the fastest way to catch your enemy is to not to go straight at them, because the wind is going to reduce. You tack, you catch the wind, and you tack again, and it's sort of you generate speed from that. And I think that's what Mgtow is doing. And we see this a lot when we look over the broader manosphere and we look over Mgtow, and a lot of people like to stay on that course and go and then you look and you go, oh no, Mgtow's over here now, and we're over here now, we're all over the place. That's a good analogy of where we're supposed to be. We're trying to catch up now.
I think the good thing about everything is that we do tend nowadays to agree on more than we disagree with.
Yeah.
And I think that's making headway,
Yeah,
even with people. Yeah, well, even with people that, we don't agree with or didn't agree with and really found fault in them, we're starting to see that we're coming eye to eye with each other more and more often.
Yeah, so the closer you get to your enemy, the more on center you're going to be. You're modulating in, Mgtow's modulating in now, and that's where in sailing terms, that's where the fight's going to be. But once we catch our enemy, and we will catch them, and I think we have. That's where the fight is going to be when we're all grouped and we're all staged, and all the men on that boat, and this is a Mgtow ship, where we're all poised for that fight, and that's going to be the beautiful moment.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was talking about earlier when I'm saying, like, we have a certain amount of freedom right now and it's cool, but we should anticipate that they're gonna come, it's gonna get worse, whatever. So whatever we're doing now hopefully does lead up to a point, and we're kind of cognizant of that, where we are able to take some, whatever action is necessary to, as they come and try and take everything from you.
Yeah.
It's going to have to get bloody. I mean, there's no doubt about it. It's going to be uncomfortable. It won't be any fun, and it'll be a head-on confrontation that we're not going to be able to. Well, we could avoid it, but at that point, things will even get worse. It'll get worse if we avoid it.
It's going to explode here. We are the privateers. We are chasing the pirates right now, and we're tacking in on them, and we're going to catch them, and we're going to fucking kick their ass when we do it.
Nice. I like that sailing analogy, that tacking. That is really, really cool.
But we got to be ready, and that's what we're doing. We're sharpening our blades right now. We're loading the cannons. We're doing all these things necessary that we need to do, and it's a beautiful thing. And when men work together in that sails, when the mainsail, and you see your enemy, and your mainsail's up, and you're like, okay, starboard, and there's little adjustments we'll need to make, There's always adjustments, but that's what men do. It's beautiful.
In time of peace, prepare for war.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, so you know, I like my analogies. A lot of people don't like my analogies. Sometimes they're like, "What the fuck you talking about?"
They don't get it, Trav. They don't get it, man.
Yeah, that's why I see a lot of my viewers go, "There's Traversable. He's traversing something."
Yeah, no, your ideas are good, man. Over time I've come to appreciate them more and more because you think deeply about it. You actually go below the surface, and
well, the thing is, we need to come from all different fronts, because the more we confuse the enemy, so to speak, by coming from all these different directions, that nobody can really put a finger on it. They can't say this is the one thing these guys are all doing, and we're not. We're all coming from different perspectives. We're all coming from different backgrounds, lifestyles, and what have you. So basically, this is keeping our enemy very confused.
Yeah, that's the art of war. We're an armada, aren't we?
Yeah. Strength and diversity, right?
Yeah. When you look over the horizon, I like that Johnny Depp movie. When he looks over the horizon, there's one sail, and he says, "I think I got this." And then he looks over the next second, and he goes, "Oh shit! There's like 50 sails." That's
right.
It's coming. We're not just one sail. We're an armada, a fleet.
I think we put a couple submarines in the water too.
Yeah, we got some.
They don't even see them yet.
I love that. They're like, "Oh, I thought it was just Barbarossa." Oh shit.
Yeah, I like that they use the planes as the analogy. And everybody gets their own planes and the Mgtow thing, but I think they should use ships because we're all different ships, aren't we? It's like a battleship game. We got our Barbarossa's the battleship in the lead, and then we got our support vessels, and then we got our aircraft carrier. Who's the aircraft carrier around here? That would be Sandman. And we've got a lot of different planes and boats on there. We're getting there. We're getting there, and it's very interesting to watch. And hey, guess what, guys? You're on the front. You're getting the first view. It's like turning on cable for the first time, and or using a cell phone for the first time. You're getting to see this Mgtow thing happen right before your eyes. That's beautiful.
Yeah, it's a multi-pronged attack, really. And that's the beauty of it, that it's so diverse that it keeps them on their toes, and they just don't know which way to turn, because the minute they turn in one direction, they got somebody coming up on their blind side. It's almost humorous to watch it happening, but it's going to continue to happen. They're not going to put it off. They can't.
Fight your enemy where your enemy is not. You're tacking. They're shooting a cannon. By the time it gets there, I'm 40 feet away. Go ahead. It's just landing in muddied water.
The weeds have taken over the garden.
the riffraff is taken over.
Mm-hmm.
When you look out at the world and just how, it's just an armpit. You just have to conclude that, right? Yeah. You look at international politics. You look at you got the United States. You got Europe. It's just an armpit, right? And like everything, there's no logic, ration, or reason out there. It's all garbage. It's all corruption and filth.
What's the most dangerous thing that you can deal with is somebody that has nothing to lose. And right now, they've taken so much away from men that what have we got left to lose? So exactly. Why not go for the gusto and do the shit that, hey, what else are you going to take from me? Fuck you.
You took my kids.
I got nothing left to lose, bitch. And you're gonna take your lumps now. This is what you made out of it. So woman up.
Woman up, yeah.
Woman up, bitch.
Yeah, woman up.
That's why. This is like when you look across that landscape. I can't help but think that. And again, the particular name is not critical, Mgtow, whatever it is. But
it's a philosophy.
The philosophy that's going on here and practicing of it, whatever, it's like the most important thing happening anywhere, that I can see. It's just really, because like the way Byrne puts it, heartburn, is like, I was drawn here because it's like the only recluse of a group of masculine-minded males that exists on the planet right now. It's amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing. And
Yeah, well, James just put it perfectly. It's only when you have lost everything that you are free to do anything. I love that, James.
yeah, like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
That's a good one.
So many men have lost it. We just got to point it out, and bring them into the manosphere. This web of ideas is hard sometimes, and you can get caught in it. And but our thing here as Mgtow producers, and we all are Mgtow producers, is help people get through it. Help people get through it. We were talking the other day about tolerance, and we were talking about, I've seen tons of new guys in lately. We're helping them navigate this and how we do this, because we have to become rather empathetic about how we do it. And now a lot of these new guys aren't going to get it right. And we had just had Howard, and Howard gets it very well. But it took a while to see that. And he says, I'm just overwhelmed sometimes. You're just when you first do this red pill thing. I don't think it's the red pill rage. I do think it's I do think there's an overwhelming of knowledge that's going to happen, and just take it slow. Take it easy. And each of us Mgtow producers, and each of the guys that comment out there, and a lot of it depends on those comments, those empathetic comments, on how you react to somebody out there, and how you're I see what you're saying, but let's look at it this way thing, and the tension that happens all the time around here. We can work through that. I think men do that very good, and it's just an argument isn't an argument if you're coming to a point. It's just a discussion.
Absolutely. And the more time goes on, the more I find myself kind of just experiencing that difference between interacting with males and interacting with females. What you just described is much more difficult to achieve with sort of females. It gets so emotional so quickly and so personal. It's just really great, the ability of males to have that kind of objective discussion.
Yeah, it's not always going to be pleasant. So sometimes I'm wrong. I have to. I don't know what you would call that. You have to get that. It's a very weird, complex. It's a very weird thing for a man to admit that he's wrong, because we are so stubborn and stern sometimes. But hey, I don't know everything. If you know something, enlighten me. I'm open now. I'm an open book now. Which brings me to one of my favorite authors, The Open Book. If you read it, it's a very, very good book.
I think you might have mentioned that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess it looks like we're a quick shout out, and glad to see Marcus is in the chat. Metaphysics.
Oh, hello, Marcus. Yeah, I always wanted to get Marcus. I tell everybody, sooner or later you have to come in on a throwdown.
I'd have to leave. He definitely goes over my head. He's good. He's good. I enjoy his stuff, but he's good.
It's detailed. It's so good, man. It's so. I think it takes Mgtow to a whole nother level to have that kind of rigor, that logic, the rigor of logic that that he brings.
It's a display of the rational male.
Yeah, it sets up such a. It gives so much credibility to the groundwork, or the basis, the foundation of what we're doing. So.
Yeah. Yeah. So what do we see? What do we see out there in the world today that Mgtow should be focused on? I think right now somebody said, well, even getting like this happening today, there was a lull. There was this easy feeling around Mgtow, which is a good thing, because it's usually a really tense place, But there was this, where are we? What are we priming for? What are we gearing up for? What are we loading in our cannons? What are we getting ready to do here this year?
Support. You know, I see that we need to support each other. New
Yeah.
guys coming in. There are a lot of guys looking for answers. They know that something is wrong. I think we all did to begin with. You know, there's something not right there. You know, we see the problem with how things are treating us. You know, how everything's going down, but we don't have the answers, and we think in our own mind, well, I might be a little crazy thinking like I am, and then they guys come in and they find part of this Mgtow talking points, and they hear that and say, hey, look, I'm not the only one thinking this. You know, these guys, yes, and they're articulating it better than I am, and they're coming in more and more. And this is where I think we need to go this year, of getting more people that help, you know, that reinforcement that, no, you're not crazy, you were right, and yes, you know, certainly take this mindset and do something with it. You know, we're not saying for guys that have children and they're married and what have you to go and get a divorce and leave and go, you know, live in the mountains, but we're certainly saying protect yourself better, know that you're not crazy, and this isn't your fault. And I think this is where we need to go more and more in the coming months or year, of having new people come in, give them support. You know, when it comes to channels or even in the comments section, you know, if you can kind of get the drift where people will make a comment and they're kind of sitting on the fence. You know, treat them with somewhat kid gloves. You know.
Yeah, that statement you said before, this isn't your fault.
Right.
It's very important. What happened, and we all bring baggage to this, you know. I can look back at my baggage and say, yeah, that wasn't my fault, and it's a forgiveness. There's a certain forgiveness around here for, hey, if you were a blue pill guy, I forgive you. I was too, you know.
Oh, sure. I mean, I think we all were. You know, we didn't grow up you know, hating the way everything treated us, and you know, we had love for our family, and however misplaced it might have been, you know, if you had a bitch mother like I did, you know, of course I cared for her when I was a kid, you know, it's normal. There's nothing wrong with that. There's no reason to feel shame or guilt.
Right.
And this is what we need to put out there.
Enough of it, you know. They're in waiting in shame and guilt when they come in. You know, we don't need to throw any more of that on them. That was interesting with that John Angelo Gage guy. Man, that guy was screaming for help, wasn't he? He was just screaming, trying to see the red pill, and it was a total onslaught from Mgtow on him. But I can look back now with a little empathetic and a little sympathy. Would this be the time we go back and say, hey, John, you know, Angelo, whatever he goes by, are you seeing things a little clearer now? You know, we're still here for you. You know, no matter what happened, we're still here for you. If you wanna chat, you wanna talk, you know, you can do that individually every single day. Every one of us have these opportunities every day to just, you know, reach back or reach forward or reach out and say, hey, you know, I'm still here. You know,
you're like the ultimate ambassador for Mgtow Traversable. I like it. It really does. That, you know, that you know, we're flawed, and we know that we're flawed, and that's why we're here. But you know, being accepting of that and everything really, I think, makes a good community, a good environment. Yeah. So, in terms of, like, I think we're going to two things basically. I would say, like, hopefully, you know, one is I think men should focus on building wealth. Right.
Oh yeah.
I think that's the main.
Everybody agrees on that, don't they?
Yeah. Free. When we talk about freedom and everything, you can't really separate that from wealth, right? Wealth is freedom, right?
Yeah.
And so, to the extent that I think, you know, Mgtow can sort of like cluster their thinking and ideas about wealth building and helping each other, you know, do that, I think that's a great thing to do. At the same time, I think we should have this sense in our minds that while we're going our own way, we also, it's just something like we were talking about earlier, but to contrast it with the MRA scenario. So the MRAs, we know that they're not really going to be really effective at changing the environment, but I think that Mgtow, there is a sentiment like Stardust kind of pushes, where it's like simply by going your own way, we're going to win. And I think that we should go our own way and do good for ourselves, but always have in the back of our mind that we do need to, on some level, be cooperative towards the outside environment.
Oh yeah, it's not the harshness of we hear it a lot around here. Oh, you guys are trying to proselyte. You guys are trying to make a new religion. You guys are, yeah, that's extreme ends of the others, their thinking.
Right.
We're not trying to. If the truth is, most people, we didn't go out and grab you. You came here for a reason. I want some guys to think about why they came here.
Well, true, but we got to worry about infiltrators too.
Oh yeah,
because they're going to be white knights that are going to be trying to be chameleons. They come in and act all buddy and everything.
They're reaching into Mgtow and thinking they're going to reach into the candy jar and pull some out.
Well, they're trying to subvert something for their own outlook and how they see fit, and it's white knighting on a different scale.
Yeah.
But we have to be wary of those people, and I think they're fairly obvious, to tell you the truth. Once you see them out there.
Oh yeah. This is my program of pudding. Now hand out a lot of pudding, because how can you fight that? You're just punching in a big layer of pudding there. You just say, hey, anytime you want to talk, I'm here. I'm still here. And every time he attacks you, you say, what you really need is a big hug. How can you fight that? Just man, I'm so done arguing with guys sometimes. You've been doing that too long to be that hateful for so long. I'm done with that. I'm just going to hand out pudding now.
The ambassador to Mgtow. I love it.
Yeah. So let's just hand out pudding. It works better, and it dissolves that aggression right away. It just it works so well. Once you do it your first time, and then there's no answer to what you just said. Hey, what do you want to talk about? I'm here for you, buddy. That stuff. It's like they'll run away screaming because you just threw water on their gunpowder. It's just like no, can't do that. Don't want to talk to a guy that.
What you remind me of there, Trav, is Good Will Hunting, Robin Williams' character, right? He's just like, that was sort of the climax of the movie when he's like, you can take out all this shit on me, but I'm telling you, I understand, and just fucking stick with it, and things will, he just like pudding. I don't know.
Like he was giving him some pudding, because he needed it at that point. A lot of guys need that because they're so wounded when they come in here. Sometimes I look at every one of these guys that are angry, and the John Angelo Gage, he's angry about something. He's angry about this, but he's getting nowhere. They're just they're this new group of young men that we are so concerned about. It's resonating through Mgtow right now. The Alex Browns, that every time you deal with him, he's just going, you're a feminist, you're an asshole, you're a this, you're that, and you're going, no, come on, Alex, time to stop that stuff.
Absolutely, yeah. When and that's when you truly make an effort to understand the male experience, right? To me, that's really a big deal here. When you really understand the male experience, what you realize is that the male comes into this world, and then his experience is just one hostile aggression against him after the next, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so naturally, that's going to result in some kind of tweaks to your personality, right? Because the world is just so hostile to you, and so once you can understand that, you can see why they are the way they are, and then you can get beyond that.
Yeah, it's a good is a good thing. It's a better way to look at it, I think. I try. Hey, I say these things, but sometimes I fail badly too. But I am only human. We are all only human, you know. Uh, we fail at things sometimes, but hey, is the longer, the more tenacious we are, the better we're going to get at our craft. And Mgtow is our craft. We're sharpening our knives. And it's not all the arsenal of knives and grenades and bombs and what you could throw at your enemies. Sometimes it's a warm embrace. You're building your ranks.
Well, it's easy. It's easy to become a misanthrope.
Yeah.
When you're being attacked by women almost constantly,
Oh God,
with everyday life attitudes that you get even from the fucking cashier at the supermarket. And then you get guys that are hammering you, and you get to the point where like, who do I want to salvage anymore? What relationship with anybody? Do I even give a fuck anybody? Everybody can piss off, right? So it's all too easy at times to say, all right, you know what, fuck the world. I'm done with everybody's shit. And you got to regroup at times. You got to take a deep breath and, get back in the game.
Yeah, share some of that spiritual healing. I had a great experience in life. I'll tell this story now if you guys are willing to hear it.
Yeah.
One of my first after my incidents and after I was really sick, I went on this retreat. I got invited by a company to a retreat. It was a photographic retreat where they gave you a camera and they tell you, now in your experience right now, go out and just, it was at this great reserve, and they said go out and take pictures of what you see. And then we all took pictures. They developed them, and we looked at the pictures, and some of them were very ugly. We were looking at the ugly in life. And then we did all this huge healing campaign of some of it was corny, the bongs around the campfire, and the candles, and it was it was geared for everybody. But at the end of that process, they gave us the same cameras, and they said go out and take pictures of your life now. And it was emotional to look at what had came back after that healing process had developed. And everybody left with this great feeling of just heal in your life. And once you get that healing in your life, go out and share it. And at the end of the thing, the guy took me aside and he said, it was his name was Harry Pepper, Dr. Harry Pepper, like Dr. Pepper. And but he says, Joe, when you go into the store, when you go into the Kmart and these hostile attacks come on you, just look up and see a person there and say, thank you for doing what you're doing. I appreciate the cash register lady. And I started doing this. Every store, every building I went into, I said to the cash register person, I said, thanks, you're doing a great job. I appreciate it that you're here on Sunday. You know what I noticed?
Yeah.
That about a year later, that I walk in and the sandwich shop lady is giving me a discount on the sandwich, and I'm getting free donuts over here, and the cash register lady's real nice to me. And it started paying off dividends. So being nice, just being empathetic and trying to do that empathetic and serious thing, and just say thank you sometimes.
Yeah.
And that's how people want. Thanks you guys, each one of you guys, for being here. I want to thank you today too.
There's a lot to be grateful for, and there is that meme that goes around, an attitude of gratitude.
Yeah.
That I think there's a lot of truth to that. I have similar things, Traversable. Like one of mine is restaurants. You go to restaurants, and I always hate it because you have the the hostesses out front, and they're all hot chicks always, because they're so oppressed. But they're in their they're running around in their hot chick outfits, and they're interacting with people, whatever. It's lighter than their work. And then you have the back room, which is just full of men, right? Just all males in the dungeon, in the kitchen, slaving away, totally unappreciated,
unrecognized. Yeah.
And so when I go to restaurants, I try and kind of swing by the kitchen and actually say thanks to them rather than like thanks to the the hookers up front.
Yeah, it's a better attitude. Next time you go into that restaurant, you'll see if that chef looks over that silver, where the wheel's hanging or something, we all go to these little dives that we like to eat at, and he sees you, you know what kind of dinner you're getting then? You're getting a good dinner. And you
Yeah.
say, thank you again. Thank you.
Well, I mean, look, when I go out, I try to act cordially and polite to people. I say thank you. If a waitress brings a drink by, she puts it down, I thank you, and this and that. But if they act like they have this goddamn attitude problem, hey, look, I can become a cunt just as quick as they can,
Yeah.
and it goes downhill from there very quickly because now we're at a war of wills here. And both of you know it. Even if it's a 20-year-old waitress, the minute you give her a little bit of attitude, she knows it and she gears it up. I mean, she turns that heat up immediately. And at this point, if I get a real bad vibe from it, I just get up and I walk out. I don't even pay for the shit that they brought me. And if they have a problem with it,
cut that string.
I'll get the manager out here, and I'll tell him exactly what the fuck my problem is with your attitude. But I'm one of those kind of people that can do this shit, and I don't care because I don't have to go back.
And it's a little bit of it's kind of what I think where the male can excel. On one hand, the male, as Traversable is just saying, I think the male has a capacity for empathy, and gratefulness that is pretty a large. But on the other hand, people do get out of line, and you can kind of the male is particularly good at regulating those situations, at calling people out on their bullshit without elevating it, escalating it to an unnecessary level, And
if somebody acts normal and right, I'm the best friend you'll ever have. But if you fuck me over, I'm the worst enemy you'll ever want around.
Oh yeah.
And I draw that line very distinctly, and I don't go mildly from one to the other. It's a drastic change, and it's very apparent. But what? More people need this attitude because more men need the attitude.
Right.
That we're not willing to put up with any shit, period, because I didn't treat you like that. So what gives you the right to treat me like that?
Right.
Fuck off.
Yeah, so on one end, we are walking a wire here, aren't we? We're sort of sitting on a fence, trying to deal with both sides, of this thing, and I think we do a good job. I mean, you learn how to do a good job of that in here, don't you?
Yeah. Well, that's like the big lie. One of the handful of core lies at the center of the whole woman thing, which is that if women were in charge, there would be no conflict, there would be no war, and what could be further from the truth, right?
Yeah, that is a big lie, isn't it? Didn't someone just go out? They did that. They took a look at that company that said they were all going to hire females, and that company closed up. Was that you that was telling me about that last week?
We were talking about that, yeah. It might have been Shining that brought it up, but yeah, exactly. They all got into petty fighting, and it just imploded. Females are not they're totally aggressive. Like females are very aggressive, and the lie that's baked into female victimhood is that they're these sweet little things, but they're just not. And obviously we're aware of that. But on a macro scale, you see someone like Hillary Clinton, right? Okay, so now we got Hillary, she's in charge, or she's Secretary of State, whatever. Is she like? And she's pumping the war drums with China, right? So she's like, posturing and threatening. You know what I'm saying? So it's just not so that women are non-aggressive. They're very aggressive.
Oh God, yes. I just you watched my latest video there with that girl in the restaurant? She was just like screaming,
Yeah.
She's like, oh God, and you see that every single day of your life. It's got to put those things away, because that's what so affects me. That used to so affect me in the life when I went out, and there was all this aggression from females, and one's it's the cognitive dissonance. On one side, I'm supposed to believe that they're all these pretty flowers, and we need them so badly. And then on the other side, when you go out and you see the total reality of their vitriol, is just you get stuck in this middle point, and it just with that gate that glazed over look at you. You probably all, each one of these guys have probably remember doing it. That glazed over look in your face where you're staring out into the middle distance, and there's just nothing, no hope. Hey, Mgtow dissects,
Oh, I know the look you're talking about. Absolutely, absolutely. Their eyes glaze over, and they're gone into, wherever they go. But there's no coming back from that. Yeah.
I know that look well. I can go into a bar, I can go into any place in my life, I can see a male and he's got that look on his face, and I go, I know exactly what that look is now. I can quantify that look. I could tell him, I know, first of all, he's just in that middle distance, just protecting himself like, oh God.
Well, it's just like you can look at women anymore, and you can tell one is a bitch just by the expression in her face,
Which is most, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's so easy to read them, and people say women are so complicated. No, fuck no, they're not complicated at all. They're actually so fucking simple that you're not getting it. That's the thing. They're so fucking childlike and simple that you're not getting it. They're not complicated. Don't overdo it. Guys want to project this huge thing on how complicated and mysterious women are. No, fuck no, they're not. They're just very rudimentary creatures.
Right.
God,
Right.
I don't know. I don't know what to do to get through to guys anymore.
That's well said, man. And I think I was actually left a comment the other day on I think one of Messenger's videos or somebody's videos, and it was basically like kind of just a quick synopsis of what we know about the female. And I don't know if you guys would be interested if I read it real quick. It's like a quick comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
If you want to go into a mailbag, yeah.
This is my own mail to start the mailbag with. So the female psyche goes as follows: me, gimme, the end.
me, gimme, the end.
There is an addendum that's alpha fucks beta bucks. Okay, true enough. There's a corollary, which is Brefalt's law. We got that. And then we have a series of weapons, the weapons that she wages against males. The primary one being the male response to her fertility triggers, right? So indicators of fertility, tits, ass, the Lourdes position, what they do with the high heels, the makeup, all that shit. So that's her first weapon, is the sexual drive of men. And then another quick follow-up, number 2, is neoteny. So all those, and neoteny is really related to fertility because youth is generally more fertile. Of course, beyond puberty. But so you got neoteny, and then as a third, there's 5. There's just 5 of these: psychological and emotional manipulation. So once she's drawn you in with the sex, then she immediately begins to start leveraging her emotional, pulling on your emotional sensitivities and whatever. You're not conscious of it, but that's what she's doing. She's manipulating you emotionally, getting you to be invested in her, using shame, using guilt, these kinds of things. And we know that they tend to excel because, at least to some extent, they tend to develop their language and emotional skills kind of more, just because that's what they spend their time on. They're always blabbing, and that's what they're doing.
Well, girls reach puberty earlier.
Exactly. So yeah. That's one just reason. Now, males ultimately, I think, can transcend that, but you got to admit that somewhere in there's a period where women kind of have an advantage with language and emotion. And then fourth is
is their in-group bias. So that's their fourth weapon, is that they are inherently thugs. You know, they're always acting in the interest of the female collective, where males are not acting in the interest of the male collective. So that gives them a ton of power. And fifth is the pathological absence of empathy for the male sex. So while males care about females on a very real level, females do not care about males on a real level. So that gives them a lot of, and that's just a quick. And then we have her modus operandi, which are hypergamy, gynocentrism, and in-group bias, which I already mentioned, and deception. Divide and conquer. Yeah.
Basically, we're describing a girl here between the age of 12 and 18. And this is where women's mentality, generally speaking, stops. They stop growing after the age of 18. So when you're dealing with a woman, and the old saying, KISS, you know, we use that in drag racing when building cars, is keep it simple, stupid, right? Yeah. When you're dealing with a woman, you're dealing with that age mentality, and that entails all of these things, you know, of hypergamy, manipulation, sexual manipulation, emotional, and everything else. It never goes beyond it, and it is because females of our species do reach puberty earlier than men do, but men go beyond their puberty age of learning.
Right. That's what's so important, right? But excuse me, my cold. But that's the trick, is like there's that, you know, males have potential to go beyond that, but if they get trapped, if they get hooked, if they fall into the, you know, then they can sort of get their development arrested, where they never actually, you know, they kind of get stuck in the
at the 20. Well, they get stuck at that 22 to 25 year range.
Right, generally, you know, due to the influence of women. Yeah.
Right, and that would be the puberty ending of the male, you know, and getting stuck into that early 20s would be detrimental to any guy.
We
you know,
see that all the time with the arrested development. We get 60-year-old men simping, you know, about not having this female companion in their lives. You know, that's the most disgusting thing I see. You know, 70-year-old men. I just went through that with a person last week. 70-year-old man just bringing prostitutes into his house and simping, and I was like, man, grow up. You know, at 70, and we get our development arrested, and that can go on for a lifetime, can it?
Yeah. Oh, exactly. That's the tragedy, is that probably a great portion or bulk of men, you know, they live their whole lives in that state, in that condition. They live and die without ever really, you know, realizing their potential to go above and beyond.
Well, yeah. in that respect, they, you know, when they say the man child, you know, what they're referring to is those men that don't grow out of that arena, that age group, you know, mentality, and that doesn't apply to all of us, though. You know, or very few of us really. You know, it's a small subgroup of people that stay in that man-child area, and we see that, and it comes down to that feminism or feminization of men that keeps them in that early 20s mentality. So, you know, I don't know what to do about it, but pointing it out may be the best way to look at it for these guys. You know,
we have these horrible examples. You know, point out those horrible examples, and you know, it could give a vision, an image of what not to be. Is most of the time where men learn. I don't want to be that. You know, how many times have we said in our lives, like, I don't want a girl like that, or I don't want that. You know, that's where we learn.
Right. Yeah, I think. I mean, when I think of what I could have done if I'd have known this stuff, man, it's just incredible. It's just incredible.
Oh, heck yeah. Yeah. God, I would have been a billionaire.
I'd have been a billionaire, man.
So yeah, that's where we digress back to the business aspect of this and making money and all that, and what the should-haves, the could-haves come to visit us after we look back and we see, oh, I could have been a billionaire. I could have been employing like 6,000 people right now. I could have been doing all this good, but it was stifled by the female in our society. Her need to protect and provide, her need for me to protect and provide took so much. It took that 60%, and that 60 to 80% killed what I could have been. We lose our dreams.
Totally.
Well,
And
it's a little bit too late for most of us, for some of us older guys anyway.
Yeah.
And what we're doing, is we're trying to help the young guys out, and a lot of them, they disregard the information at their own peril. And this is the problem, that we're not doing this for ourselves so much anymore. That
Right.
we're doing it to help them, so they don't make the mistakes that we made. Because, like I said, it's really too late for us at this point, to not get married, not accumulate the shit that women accumulate with your money, and rather have the money that you have used the way you see fit. And we try to further this. I don't think a lot of the younger guys are getting that idea. They think, well, these old fuckers are just pontificating, talking shit and everything. Well, we're not. We've been there, we've done it, we've lived through it, and now it's too late for us. So
Yeah, that's the funny part, isn't it? When they think we're pontificating. No, we've lived it. I'm not pontificating about nothing. I'm not prognosticating into the future about nothing. I'm telling you the way it was and the way it happened. What I could have been, what I should have been, what businesses I've lost, and what I've seen, the destruction and the decay in my life that I've seen. No, I'm not pontificating. I'm telling the truth because I'm not old or anything. I'm barely 50, but I've seen a lot. And but when these young men project, when they see us talk about, they look at it as a projection, don't they? And like what they should be saying is, I can avoid that. I can avoid that, and I think they are for the most part. But they don't want to. It's like you can't see it till you experience it sometimes, and that's the difficult part. And I want to protect them from that. So take it as the gospel truth, and when you hear these stories, take it as the gospel truth, because
don't get to the
yeah,
point where you can't change anything anymore.
yeah,
We're the proverbial Monday morning quarterback here.
yeah.
And basically take heed of it, because we played the game, and now we see the mistakes that we've made. So don't play that game again, because
But yeah, by no means it doesn't mean I haven't. I can show you my life between this point and as little as 8 years ago, 10 years ago, and I can show you how Mgtow's worked. I own my own house, I own my own garage, I own my own business now, simply because I took on Mgtow, a very Mgtow attitude. But up to that point, the 40 years before that, there was nothing left.
I could show you year by year throughout my past what mistakes I've made, and if I had changed them,
Right.
I would let you be the judge on how it would have worked out had I changed it or not done what I did. And then it would become apparent. But you haven't got that kind of time, to go that in depth of it. You would bore people to death at that point.
Yeah. So there is a two-sided coin here in me. I talk sometimes about the horror of it, but I can also talk about the extreme joy that you're going to get around here if you apply a few simple a simple task, and not even tasks, a simple ideologies to your life that work, and Mgtow works.
Oh yeah.
yeah,
And it can
we
come
have
very fast. In a matter of 5 years, you can be on top of the world again. But that's no place to leave Mgtow. once you get, I see this also, they taking the pills. I equate this to someone in the mental health facility that, you know, he goes and he gets the pills, and the pills start working, and all of a sudden he says to himself, hey, I feel better. I don't need the pills anymore. No, you're going to still need the pills. It's just that they're working and you're thinking better. Don't go away and throw away the cure. You know,
Well, you
once
can't.
you start getting,
You can't unsee what you've seen. You know,
Yeah.
you can't undo the knowledge. You can't be Cypher in the Matrix. You can't go back in. It's not possible. Okay.
it's not possible. No, once you get it, keep taking them. And start giving. You know what? You become like a doctor. Then start giving the pills out. It gives you purpose and meaning in life. Then that's what we do here. You know.
And I think it's getting through to some. We got who is it here? Someone just said, "Thanks a lot, guys. I really appreciate the work you're doing because it's really helping." So you're helping,
that
gentlemen.
makes it all worthwhile, doesn't it? I mean, all the abuse we take from, you know, I mean, sometimes, it does make it all worthwhile just to know that, okay, one person is getting something good and won't repeat the mistakes that are out there. You know, it's like watching an animal get trapped in a bear trap or something, you know, chewing its leg off. You don't want to see that happen. You know, you want to cause the animal not to walk into the trap. And I hate to conflate a man with an animal, but you know what I'm saying. You know, the feelings that you get of empathy towards the pain of somebody being caught in that bear trap, I'd rather not deal with it. I'd rather not. I'd rather get that to avoid the trap.
Oh,
Yeah, because men actually have empathy and they actually do give a fuck.
I do. You know.
The whole world. I mean, the woman should just be looked at as a snare. She's just a snare. She's just.
Well, she's a trap. She's a trap.
Yeah.
Any females listening right now, their heads going to explode.
Yeah, you don't want to fall in a hole. A vagina, for all that it is just a hole. It's the void of all nothing. Don't fall into it.
It's a bear trap. If vagina had teeth on it, nobody'd have a dick.
Yeah, I'm telling you that. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Okay, guys, we went about 3 hours here. I'm thinking that's a pretty good day. Are you guys happy with the conversation? You want to keep going, or you want to?
No, I got to get back to cooking. I'm not going to have any damn dinner if I don't get to work.
Yeah, I got to start thinking.
My
stomach's crawling right now, and I wanted to take a short break before. I think we'll come on later. I think Shining wanted to come in later, and before I leave, I wanted to tell you I smoked 2 cigars here while I was doing this. Guys, I smoked an El Diamante from hand rolled in the Republic of something Republic. It's a hand rolled Cuban, and it's a second, and it was very good. And then I started an Express of Cuba, and it's a very good cigar. I bought them both from Thompson. It's my thing now. I'm smoking cigars now, and I got like 80 different brands, and I will be in every video and every podcast, I'll be sharing how I felt about that one. And I did smoke one yesterday.
No woman to bitch at you about the stink.
Yeah, the stink in the house. It smells like cigars and open ass around here, and I love it. So I did smoke I did notice gynocentrism in the cigar business too. There was I got a cigar, and it was by a female producer, and once I lifted it up, I looked at it. It was soft. It didn't burn right, and they had excluded a certain amount of tobacco to get that softness, and she was cutting costs, and it was probably not going to be a very it was not an El Gloria, it was some other cigar. I'll mention it when I get the name, but it was horrible. And the male cigars are still probably the best, the Don Cubans and the Don. So that's my new thing. smoking some cigars. And with that, does anybody want to surmise?
The female is not complicated, gentlemen. Me, gimme, gimme.
Yeah.
Well, if we're talking what we're into, I'm collecting more cast iron skillets and pots and everything for my cooking ventures, and I want to wish everybody a happy International Mgtow Day today.
Big time. Happy International Mgtow, everybody.
Happy International Mgtow Day, guys. And I think the point today would be, when we travel around the manosphere here, have a little empathy for your brother and try to get into it. And he needs you as much as you need him.
There you go.
Let's get this thing going, and let's get this thing growing, and a little empathy, and a harsh word sometimes is what you got to give out around here, but a warm embrace and a thank you. And I thank each one of these men here for showing up today, and I thank each one of my viewers today for showing up, and I love you, each and every one of you guys, and thanks a lot. And with that, I'm going to stop the broadcast. Thanks a lot, guys.